This story kicks off by plunging us down a long, crumbling stone dungeon corridor. Deeper inside, three skeletons are gathered, looking like they are in the middle of a meeting. One skeleton grandly announces it is time for the labyrinth unveiling ceremony, very official. Then, emerging from a bright opening, a mysterious hooded figure makes their grand entrance. This lead skeleton, an intelligent one named Lionel, questions the plan to open the dungeon here. His master plan is laid out in a genius stick figure diagram. Adventurers arrive, they get got, we get paid. Our boy, the newly identified dungeon master, is absolutely sold on his own flawless logic. With a wave of his hand, he dismisses his skeletal minions to get to work. Showtime, boys. Left alone, the dungeon master takes a moment, the weight of his grand scheme settling in. His focus shifts to the control room, checking in on his bony security guard. Turns out our guy was Japanese in a past life, but now he is a dungeon master with hazy memories. Back in the present, he is scouting the area, calculating the distance to an approaching carriage. He is feeling the pressure now, reflecting on the long, hard road to get to this point. This road apparently involved being so starved he invented magic to ignore his hunger, peak survival. But his dungeon has expanded massively, now piercing straight through the entire mountain. He admits he only summoned the chatty Lionel out of loneliness, thankful the rest are silent types. With his goal in sight, he clenches his fist, steeling himself for what is next, and his grand motivation is revealed. He just wants to talk to people and eat actual food. His skeleton underling asks if he said something, and the DM just wants to know why he is playing dumb. This dungeon master just sighs, already exhausted by his own staff. With a dramatic shout, the dungeon master sends his bony minions scrambling to their positions. His skeleton crew immediately triggers a massive rock slide, blocking the path ahead. A giant boulder crashes down, sealing off the road with some serious finality. He then scrambles with his crew to get into their ambush positions, looking incredibly graceful. Turns out he is using ambush magic, which lets him literally hide inside a wall, peak stealth. Peeking out from his hiding spot, he checks on the status of the approaching carriage. Meanwhile, his security team is just sitting there, rattling their bones, super focused. One of them even gives a friendly wave from the back, a real professional outfit he is running. Our boy is already regretting leaving Lionel in charge, admitting he cannot understand a thing. From his vantage point, he sees the carriage has finally come to a halt right on cue. A party of adventurers steps out, completely baffled by the conveniently placed rock slide. One of the warriors approaches him in his disguise, asking if he has seen a dungeon entrance nearby. And right on schedule, a suspicious crack appears in the rock face with a little glint from within. This ponytailed member of the party seems to notice something is off, her senses tingling. When asked about it, she just brushes it off, saying it is probably nothing important. Our dungeon master, still merged with the wall, is sweating bullets, trying to calm himself down. He is absolutely terrified of being discovered and labeled a creepy dungeon master, the ultimate insult. But then his panic flips to pure excitement as he realizes they are taking the bait. From the dungeon's point of view, the adventurers are walking right into the trap. It is finally happening. This whole party stares at the entrance, realizing this is a brand new dungeon they have stumbled upon. This party's mage and her companion are inside, critiquing the dungeon-like atmosphere he worked so hard on, and just down the hall is the first big surprise he has cooked up for them. A circular chamber is lined with coffins, each one housing a skeleton armed with a freshly crafted stone sword. From his secret vantage point, the dungeon master watches their icons approach the trigger point, barely containing his glee. Our boy absolutely losing it with excitement while his skeleton minion complains about being left behind. This skeleton gives him some serious side-eye, and the dungeon master just stands there, arms crossed, totally sulking. His minions are just casually gossiping about him, wondering why he is so slow and surprised he can even use magic, leading him to yell at Lionel for the simple layout, but Lionel calmly explains it should have taken an hour anyway. Suddenly, they are both just laughing it off, agreeing that he needs to get a move on, a real professional dynamic here. And just as quickly, the good mood shatters as he screams at Lionel that this is no time for jokes. Taking a moment to compose himself, he remembers the adventurers are nearby and he needs to be quiet. But it is too late. The first wave of skeletons has been completely annihilated and the party is already gone. Outside, the carriage is already pulling away, the adventurers having found absolutely nothing of interest. Leaving him to survey the carnage, realizing his brilliant idea for stone equipment was, in fact, terrible, it finally clicks that when the adventurers said, as expected, they meant the skeletons were pathetically weak. So all his grand plans to get some food have crumbled, sacrificing his bony boys for nothing. Lionel tries to comfort his crying boss, who is just internally screaming about how frustrating this all is. But his skeleton underling only offers the helpful insight that they were already dead anyway, truly a master of emotional support. He then explains that destroyed just means they need a magical recharge like a phone battery and they will be fine, which is brand new information for our dungeon master, who looks completely stunned by the revelation. He just zaps them with a bit of magic and poof, the skeletons are back on their feet, good as new. Lionel then proudly presents the boss for a post-failure debriefing and the other two just stare blankly. Our boy is just sweating profusely, completely at a loss for what to say to his undead employees. He stammers out an apology, promising to do better, while the skeletons just look utterly baffled by the pep talk. This next day, it is back to construction as he prepares to use his spatial refinement magic on a wall. With a wave of his hand, he starts literally deleting sections of the mountain to expand his dungeon. A sudden cave-in nearly takes him out, reminding him that construction is, in fact, dangerous work. But with a quick spatial restoration spell, he just hits the undo button on the whole mess, problem solved. He figures out he can just repeat this process to dig, but worries about accidentally creating an indoor well. After some digging, he decides on a floor level and prepares a new spell, Flatten Ground. Touching the rough floor, he uses his magic to instantly pave it into a smooth, solid surface. A look of intense focus crosses his face. He's got a brand new, probably terrible idea brewing. He then goes on a paving spree, spending 1 MP a pop to smooth out every single surface in the corridor. This whole construction binge is fueled by the crushing failure of his grand opening, which got him 0 food. In a moment of clarity, he realizes he never once considered how his weak skeletons felt about being cannon fodder. After so long alone, he wonders if he has forgotten how to be human, even asking a mysterious Keo-chan for advice. Then he is just spiraling, yelling that this is the bare minimum for him to even function as a dungeon master. Actually, scratch that, he is not just any dungeon master, he is an intermediate dungeon master, thank you very much. It is revealed he has been hearing a woman's voice. Keo-chan in his head ever since he woke up in this world. This mysterious voice is the one who taught him labyrinth magic, back when he was apparently too poor for pants. Back when he was still pantless, he decided to set his magic cost to 1 MP per cubic meter. And he is still super impressed that Keo-chan's system adapted to his Japanese sense of measurement, making him feel a little bad for taking the mysterious voice in his head for granted all this time, which leads him to wonder if their connection is fate or just a standard dungeon master feature. Lionel then pops in completely clueless, while the DM internally notes Keo-chan only ever talks to him, and his skeleton is absolutely losing his mind over the fact that he paved the entire area. But the dungeon master just explains this is his coping mechanism for the grand opening disaster, before promptly shooing Lionel away, telling him to just go back for a bit. Walking up some freshly made stairs, he decides it is time to take stock of his magical abilities, categorizing his powers into dungeon building, traps, and personal buffs with over 1 million MP to burn. On top of that, his summoning magic is not just limited to skeletons, he can make goblins too. Though he immediately shoots that idea down, refusing to use living things as disposable fodder, instead staring at his bony crew, reaffirming his choice to stick with the undead, until their rattling gets on his nerves, so he yells at them and zips away with high-speed move, leaving his skeletons completely confused as a stickman version of their boss just vanishes. He emerges from a hidden exit into the woods, finally ready to figure out his next move. Sitting down to realize he needs a new spell to cover the 5-day walk to civilization, and he finds a quiet spot by a cliff face, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. It is revealed he woke up here 6 months ago next to a dead body, which is where he borrowed his robes. While a map shows this little hideout is connected to his main dungeon by a small passage, our boy is just monologuing about his glow-up, starting with a measly 10 MP and grinding to this point. He notes how close the outside world seems, but Keo-chan's voice chimes in with a harsh reality check. An invisible wall just eats him backwards, completely catching him off guard. This magical barrier ripples violently as he slams face-first into the dungeon's boundary, and he absolutely eats it, crashing hard onto the ground just outside the passage. Lying there in pain, Keo-chan's voice reminds him that dungeon masters are literally bound to their dungeons. Annoyed, he just mutters that he already knows the rules, no need for the condescending reminder. Now he is just brooding, wondering what his actual purpose is in this world as a dungeon master, since his grand motivation was just to eat some decent food and talk to actual people. And of course, his ultimate goal is to get close to a cute girl, a man of culture. Staring down his newly paved hall, he decides that if the grand opening failed, he will just build a better dungeon. Now treating his dungeon like a tech startup, aiming for product-market fit with his adventurers. His new business model states you cannot blame the users, who will always find unexpected ways to break things, which triggers some serious PTSD from his past life thinking about users who macro-click a button 1,000 times a second. So he starts building a user persona, a hot-blooded, probably horny adventurer around 20 years old. But this persona has 0 party loyalty and is only motivated by buying girls, which our boy finds absolutely revolting. To hook this kind of guy, he needs to map out the perfect user story that leads to a successful dungeon clear. Meaning his dungeon is not a static product, he has to observe visitors and iterate on the design. His mission is now to provide a constantly updated user experience, and luckily MP just recharges with sleep. But just as he is getting into his corporate self-help groove, something catches his attention. He is trying to connect his past life's corporate jargon to this world, but it is just not clicking. Then he just shrugs it off, figuring the memories will come back eventually, no big deal. Suddenly he is all fired up, deciding to improve the dungeon's UX, before asking himself what the hell UX even is. And he immediately answers his own question, explaining it is all about the user experience, a true visionary. His lecture then cuts to his skeleton crew having a very sophisticated debate about restaurant service versus food quality. And it turns out he is not just monologuing, he is explaining this to a mysterious elf girl who just appeared. He is deep into his restaurant analogy when it finally hits him, who exactly is he talking to? A single eye widens in pure, unadulterated oh crap realization, because he has been lecturing a random, very cute elf girl this whole time who finds his rambling interesting. She just leans in, completely unfazed by his weirdness, and asks him to continue his story. In a flash of light, something truly bizarre happens. She splits into two identical copies, casually asking if he has seen a goddess around here. Our boy's brain completely short-circuits, overwhelmed by how cute her voice is. And as she asks about the diner he was talking about, he is already mentally checking out. He activates emergency evacuation and literally yeets himself out of there, screaming that this is impossible, leaving the girl staring at the empty space where he was, probably wondering what just happened. After teleporting away, he is still panicking about how cute she was, realizing his spell lets him just nope out of any social situation. This spirals into a full-blown meltdown over why he cannot talk to girls, only to his skeleton crew. And he is now cringing from a distance, absolutely convinced he came off as a total creep. Peeking around a corner, he nervously wonders if she is finally gone, his heart still pounding. Meanwhile, the elf girl is just fixing her outfit, looking a little confused by his sudden exit. And a closer look shows she is actually pretty bummed out by his panicked escape. Still trying to get her top situated, probably wondering what on earth his deal was. Before she just sighs, pulls her cloak back on, and gets ready to leave. Then she just takes off into the woods, disappearing from sight completely, leaving our boy to finally peek out from his hiding spot, confirming the coast is clear. For a solid 30 seconds, he was just completely captivated by her beauty, no ulterior motives whatsoever. Which immediately turns to panic as he realizes he could get in serious trouble for just peeping, and in his frantic state, he trips over his own feet and goes down hard. As he hits the ground, he is hit with another harsh reality check. He cannot even leave the dungeon. 10 days pass, giving him plenty of time to stew in his own awkwardness. Now he is just sitting in a carved-out nook, reflecting on his 200 days in this world and how he is adapting. A dark look crosses his face as he realizes he still has not eaten or talked to anyone. Progress. With Lionel's help, his skeleton army has grown to 500, burning through 500,000 MP a day. But now he is just completely surrounded by his undead army, and it is getting a little crowded. He is also realizing each skeleton has its own personality, a holdover from when they were different living species. And to avoid another disaster, he is diligently repairing any broken parts this time around. This brings up a question he has never asked Lionel: how exactly can they even communicate? Lionel just shrugs, basically saying, "Is not it obvious?" Leaving our boy to grumble about convenient magic systems. But Labyrinth Magic never mentioned anything about being able to chat with a literal goddess, which he is sure she was. Lionel asks if his boss's robes are magic, but the MC explains it is just telepathy letting them talk. And his skeleton is just completely blown away by the sheer scale of his master's power, pointing out that no normal summoner could possibly maintain this many skeletons at once. Apparently, a regular necromancer would literally die summoning a single skeleton, which is news to our boy, who then wonders if dungeon masters just have high MP since he has only got 10,000, which is a massive lie. Lionel says summoning 500 skeletons proves how abnormal he is, while the DM internally flexes he can do 4 times that. So with all this power, Lionel asks what the grand plan is, and the DM is all too happy to explain. His brilliant new scheme is, of course, the Dungeon Ux Improvement Project, because of course it is. This all came from a breakthrough he had while reviewing his magic, discovering a new skill, Craft Spirit, which lets him do metalworking and even some intermediate-level crafting to make actual gear. And the spell lets him mix materials and imbue them with magic, basically turning him into a magical blacksmith. He has been busy mass-producing traps, automatic doors, and even a magical smartwatch that tracks his MP. Even apologizing to Keo-chan, since the watch means he does not have to ask her for his MP count anymore. Keo-chan gives him the silent treatment, leaving him to awkwardly pivot back to Lionel's questions about the army. And Lionel points out that, yeah, the dungeon is now full of traps, but they are all completely harmless. Our boy just smugly corrects him. He has precisely 12,000 harmless traps, thank you very much. Leaving Lionel understandably confused, but the DM insists this is all to welcome adventurers. He is still completely determined to interact with people, refusing to give up on his dream of not being a hermit. His goals being simple really: make friends, eat real food, and maybe even visit a town for once. Then Lionel just blurts out that he also wants to get with a girl, completely misreading the room and shocking his boss. This dungeon master is completely flustered by Lionel's comment, telling him to stop being so casual. Then he declares he is already devoted to a goddess, the elf girl he met for all of 5 seconds. Lionel then asks why not just summon a big, powerful monster, using a doodle of a dragon to make his point. But our boy gets serious, explaining he does not have the stomach for actual casualties in his dungeon. That is the whole reason he is going all in on traps instead of deadly monsters. And his plan, illustrated by a helpful doodle, is to use teleportation traps to just yeet adventurers safely outside. He notes that getting back to the cave where he met the goddess requires high-speed move, which costs a whopping 100 million MP. Lionel is still confused, saying all he has heard about is the insane number of traps, not a grand opening. Our boy just waves it off, deciding it is too complicated to explain and they will just open the dungeon, a classic ship it and fix it later strategy. So he gets down to business in his new command center, gathering 10 skeleton captains for a briefing. A handy map shows this command room is located deep inside the mountain, separate from the public entrance. And from here, he's got a master map that tracks traps, skeletons, and any intruders in real time. He has also got monitors displaying all his dungeon KPIs, trap activations, damage reports, and the MP burn rate. Lionel nervously asks if the boss is really serious about opening this place, clarifying he is not complaining, just concerned. A little doodle of the dungeon master explains this new plan is based on the lessons from his last epic failure. And Lionel is completely sold, calling it the brilliant culmination of his master's ideas, a truly conscious design. This dungeon master just says his name, and Lionel immediately responds, ready for orders. Then our boy just snaps, leaning in and asking if Lionel thinks this whole grand scheme is just something he can pull off effortlessly, launching into a passionate rant about how much of himself he has poured into this dungeon, insisting the users have to feel it. Calming down, he asks if there are any upcoming holidays that might boost visitor numbers, but his skeleton has absolutely no clue. Lionel suggests they just open up whenever a carriage passes, while the DM just chills in his new gaming chair, but his skeleton buddy seems a little concerned about this. Strategy, when suddenly Lionel yells for his boss to look, interrupting his maximum chill pose in the command chair. On the master map, one of the 5 new surveillance rooms lights up. The skeleton sensors have just turned orange. And our boy's face gets dead serious, realizing orange means caution as he tells Lionel they are moving out. They rush to a lookout point carved into the rock, trying to see what triggered the alarm. And peeking out, he is immediately greeted by the sounds of a full-on battle happening right outside. It is a brutal scene. A group of bandits are absolutely tearing through some soldiers, leaving only one standing. And from his perch, he sees the bandits have ambushed a carriage in a complete massacre down below. One of the bandits laughs maniacally, pointing out an iron cage in the back of the wagon, while our boy takes a closer look at a fallen soldier, noting the uniform suggests they were official troops. Lionel gives a chipper salute, stating the obvious that the bandits won, but the MC is just staring, completely unfazed. He calmly analyzes the numbers, 5 soldiers versus 20 bandits, and wonders why he is so detached from the carnage, which feels weird since he remembers being just a normal dude from Japan in his past life. Then a system rule pops into his head. Dungeon masters are inherently indifferent to the lives of outsiders, so he just asks Lionel if those were regular soldiers, and his second-in-command confirms they look the part. Keo-chan chimes in, admitting she has never seen that uniform before, but her knowledge is not perfect. And his attention snaps back to the iron cage on the wagon, grimly wondering if they were transporting slaves. Lionel points out the obvious flaw: bandits attacking official troops is basically suicide unless the local lord is a total pushover. Meanwhile, the bandit leader smirks by the cage, hinting there is a much bigger plan at play and a reason they took this risk. This bandit leader yanks a small, horned child out of the cage by a chain, calling them a demon. And a closer look reveals the kid is indeed a rare demon type, apparently worth a whole lot of money, which Lionel helpfully explains means they are a hot commodity on the slave market since they are humanoid. But our boy's face goes ice cold, muttering that being a child should not matter in this situation, leaving Lionel completely baffled by his boss's sudden intensity. This dungeon master wrestles with his own rules, knowing this world has no human rights groups to call. And when Lionel asks if he is serious about getting involved, he confirms it without a second of hesitation. His skeleton buddy tries to reason with him. The bandits are human, the kid's a demon, but the MC just is not hearing it. Lionel then warns him this will probably mean killing the bandits, and our boy just says he knows. This will also completely screw up his grand dungeon opening, a fact he has already accepted. As the bandits kick the kid around, he reminds himself that as a dungeon master, he is supposed to be indifferent. But that rule gets thrown right out the window as he stands up, declaring he has his own policy. His core principle is that he will not build his dungeon's reputation on the suffering of others. And he is officially adding a new rule to that policy: if a kid's in trouble, you help them, period. He whirls around, ordering Lionel to move out because different species is a trash excuse for cruelty. With his eyes glowing, Lionel instantly acknowledges the command. He is 100% on board. This heroic moment immediately shatters as our boy realizes this means he has to talk to people again. Lionel internally notes this is the 6th time his master has summoned a skull troll, wondering how this one will go. To help him practice, Lionel does a little dance, cheerfully introducing himself as an intelligent, talking skeleton. And our boy absolutely loses it, rehearsing his big entrance as the dungeon master, a master of social grace. Lionel just watches his boss, thinking this dungeon master has definitely changed in some weird ways. And our boy then declares he is not to be spoken to for 3 minutes, a totally normal way to prep for a conversation. He then complains that if he summons more skeletons, Lionel will have to manage them, which is the point. This immediately devolves into him begging Lionel not to ignore him, the 3-minute rule not lasting long at all. Meanwhile, Lionel's just wondering why he is so easy to summon, guessing it is something to do with his past life. And a quick flashback suggests he was some kind of warrior, which would explain his leadership skills. After that brief moment of introspection, it is back to our boy gleefully running through a field with his bony friends. But the mood shifts as he gives a new stone-cold order: hunt the bandits and rescue that child. Lionel asks if he is for real, reminding him he was once human, and the MC just confirms it without hesitation. His skeleton buddy tries one last time, pointing out the bandits are human and the kid's a demon. To which our boy just turns his back and basically says, "And your point is?" He'd always tried to keep a distance from others, drawing a line he never wanted anyone to cross, but now he is shouting that species is no excuse for cruelty and ordering Lionel to get a move on. In that moment, Lionel realizes his master's sense of justice is the exact same as his own, even making him wonder if his own past life had some connection to protecting children. With a glowing eye, he fully accepts the command. He is all in on this rescue mission. A skeletal hand grabs a horn, ready to sound the charge and rally the troops for battle, and the skeleton archers immediately get the signal, preparing to knock their arrows on command. Our boy is just stunned, having had no idea Lionel was running full-on military drills while he was sleeping. And yeah, the 8th and 9th archer squads are already in formation, ready to unleash hell on some bandits. And it is not just archers. The 2nd and 8th infantry squads are lined up, ready to charge on command. Lionel gives the all-clear, confirming both archers and infantry are battle-ready and awaiting the order. With the firing ports now open, the skeleton archers have a perfect hidden vantage point on the bandits. On command, the crossbows are raised in perfect unison, bony fingers finding their triggers. Our boy gives the final, grim-faced order to prepare, while Kyo-chan just peeks out, totally lost. This first volley is unleashed, and the bandits are completely blindsided by a sudden storm of arrows. Absolute chaos erupts as the men scramble for cover, having no clue where the attack is coming from. They are screaming to find the target, but the darkness makes it impossible to spot the hidden archers. Meanwhile, the dungeon master is just staring, completely flabbergasted that his skeleton army is this competent. Just as the bandits try to regroup, a massive explosion rocks their formation, adding to the mayhem. That is the signal for the ground troops, as a big-brained skeleton captain orders the 2nd unit to charge. This skeleton infantry slams into the bandit lines, turning their panicked retreat into a full-on slaughter. From his little hidey hole, our boy is just amazed his troops are actually using the gear he made so well. One of the bandit leaders tries to rally his men, refusing to get taken down by some small fry skeletons. He proves his point by smashing one of the skeletons into a sad pile of bones with a single axe swing. Seeing this, our boy tells Lionel to hold the next volley. They will hit their own troops at this rate. Lionel's response is a casual, "Yeah, of course they will get hit, like friendly fire is just part of the package." This DM absolutely loses it, yelling that they cannot just sacrifice their own allies like that. But Lionel just points out the obvious: the boss can just revive them with a little MP, so who cares? And our boy has a complete meltdown, realizing he forgot his own powers in a moment of panic. The shame is just too much. Lionel, with a terrifying glint in his eye, orders the 2nd volley while our boy just cowers in the background. This skeleton infantry is getting absolutely demolished, with one poor soul literally asking for help as he is shattered. This chaos sends the surviving bandits into a full-blown panic, scrambling for the safety of the woods. Lionel calmly asks the boss if they should pursue the runners, confident they can track them down. But the dungeon master calls it off, telling him to just deal with the survivors they have already cornered. He explains that bandits who abandon their own are not a real threat, showing a surprisingly cold strategic side. His skeleton buddy points out that when the army finds this mess, they will blame the mountain, not some random thugs. And our boy has a galaxy brain moment, declaring this is the perfect PR opportunity to open his dungeon. Lionel is completely lost, wondering if he has somehow missed a key part of this. Genius plan. A quick dungeon master memo reveals a slight problem. He has no rope and his magic cannot just create it. Luckily, the dead soldiers had some, which is now being used to neatly tie up the captured bandits. Problem solved. From his lookout post, the dungeon master quietly surveys the aftermath of his first real battle. He reflects on the grim reality that saving the child meant ordering the deaths of the bandits. This guy feels a little guilty, but not nearly as much as he expected, wondering if it is a dungeon master perk. Ultimately, he just decides that as long as his conscience is clear, it is fine, a chillingly practical take. He and Lionel then turn their attention to the whole reason this mess started in the first place. This rescued demon child is sleeping soundly, completely oblivious to the carnage that just unfolded. Our boy gets a little weird, asking if the kid is a boy and if he is attached to him now, confusing everyone. Back in a makeshift room, Lionel confirms the kid appears to be a demon, which seems to surprise the dungeon master. Lionel then has to explain that demons are a subcategory of the demon race. A classic, well, actually from your skeleton sidekick. Lionel continues his lecture on demon biology, noting they're basically human-adjacent but hostile. And he confirms the kid is just unconscious, not dying, though it is clear they have been through hell. A quick flashback confirms the child was kept in a cage and barely fed by the bandits, which makes our boy's face harden, muttering that anyone who hurts a kid is just absolute scum. When Lionel starts to say something, the MC cuts him off with a very direct threat to unsummon him on the spot. With a flash in his eyes, Lionel just says understood. He knows exactly when to shut up. This dungeon master then asks why his skeleton buddy was so eager to jump into the fight in the first place, and Lionel gets all mysterious, suggesting that maybe he was some kind of warrior in his past life. but our boy immediately calls him out, remembering Lionel claimed to have amnesia when he was first summoned. Lionel just shrugs it off, saying he has been figuring things out as he goes while training the other skeletons. This deep conversation is interrupted by two skeletons striking a pose which just completely breaks the MC's brain. Ko-chan chimes in, basically asking if the boss realizes he just adopted a demon kid, completely derailing his plans. And speaking of the kid, they are starting to stir, just as Ko-chan points out this whole rescue has wrecked the schedule. A skeleton shouts that the child is awake, and everyone immediately turns their attention to the stone slab. This kid wakes up totally disoriented, asking where they are, and the MC helpfully explains it is dark. To fix this, he whips out a craft spirit lantern, a little something he made earlier. And he tries to be reassuring, telling the kid they are safe now in his personal labyrinth. Which of course comes off as terrifying, with his creepy grin and skeleton entourage causing the kid to scream bloody murder. Our boy completely fumbles the save, dropping the lantern in shock as the kid has a total meltdown. Lionel then has to point out the obvious. A guy in a dark robe surrounded by skeletons is not exactly a welcoming sight. Our boy tries to explain the situation, but the two skeletons posing behind him are not exactly helping his case. And yeah, from the kid's point of view, this is absolutely a horror movie kidnapping scene. This demon child, full of bravado, points and demands to know who they are, warning them not to mess with him. So the dungeon master's genius solution is to add more lights and tell his skeletons to practice social distancing. He then tries to relate by claiming his own dad is a super scary demon, which is not the comfort he thinks it is. Unsurprisingly, the kid is not buying it for a second and demands proof that they are not enemies. Our boy just stares, completely out of ideas on how to prove he is a good guy with a literal skeleton army. But the kid's tough act immediately crumbles when his stomach lets out a massive growl. He is starving. With the kid distracted, our boy pops up behind him with a blanket, ready to make his move. This child is completely stunned, blushing as he is handed some food, clearly not expecting any kindness. Our boy insists it is not a bribe, but the kid is still suspicious, saying he cannot be trusted. He just shrugs it off with a tired look, saying he does not care about trust, he is just doing what he wants. Pointing at the kid, he makes it clear all that matters is that he is safe, no thanks required. Meanwhile, two skeletons casually mention how easy it was to revive their fallen comrades, so no biggie. This dungeon master then asks if the kid has a home, offering a skeleton escort since he cannot leave the mountain. This prompts the kid to ask what he is, and our boy confirms he is human, which seems to surprise him. And the kid's brain goes into overdrive, concluding he has been rescued by a mad scientist doing weird experiments. Our boy is absolutely mortified by this accusation. He is a dungeon master, not some freak in a lab. Now that he is not terrified, the kid asks why the MC is not scared of him, a demon. To which our boy just deadpans that there is really not much difference between humans and demons anyway. Ko-chan just peeks over the edge, completely lost by this sudden philosophy lesson. And our boy explains he is not human anymore. The real monsters are people who enslave others. Ko-chan then offers to let the kid go and spread the word, which sounds like a terrible idea. But the kid just asks what the hell he is, while our boy says he'd actually welcome more people. He lays it out cold, he is not prying and only rescued the kid for his own selfish satisfaction. And this weirdly honest approach actually works as the kid realizes it was some kind of calming spell. With the tension broken, the kid's bravado vanishes, replaced by a desperate scream for food. Luckily, the bandits left behind a nice little spread of bread, apples, and cheese, and the kid absolutely demolishes it while our boy worries about the logistics of getting him home. He then has a full-on breakdown, crying that it is fine since his calorie-ignore skill exists, pure self-pity. After a big bite, the kid just grins and confirms the food is amazing, completely won over, leaving our boy just stunned into silence, not expecting such a simple, happy reaction. When the kid asks if he is eating, the MC tries to play it cool, insisting he is not hungry at all, which is, of course, a massive lie. Internally, he is absolutely starving and hating every second of it. This kid gives him a suspicious look, clearly not buying the tough guy act for a second, and Ko-chan freaks out, thinking the MC has gotten so into his role he has started eating something weird. Meanwhile, the kid just keeps eating, oblivious, as the MC and a skeleton spy on him from a corner. With a full belly, the kid lets out a huge, satisfied sigh, looking up at the sky, and then flops over, celebrating being full while our boy just watches on, completely drained. This dungeon master then surveys the damage, realizing this kid just ate a third of their entire food supply. This kid, now full, asks if our boy is trying to send him away, offering to take the leftovers. Ko-chan and a buddy are still whispering that this whole situation is super suspicious. Millia just looks down, completely flustered and embarrassed by all the attention. Our boy just stares back, trying to get a read on this very confusing demon child. Finally, the kid snaps, blushing and revealing his name is actually Millia, and with that bombshell dropped, he immediately passes out in a full-on food coma. This dungeon master is just left repeating the name, his brain completely short-circuiting. Lionel then pops up to helpfully inform him that Millia is a girl's name, causing a full-blown panic. Our boy absolutely screams at Lionel for the jump scare while the other skeletons just keep posing. Meanwhile, Ko-chan gets a brutally honest explanation from a skeleton about why they have to babysit the boss. This skeleton then casually asks if the boss is a monster, which sends Ko-chan into an identity crisis. Through all this chaos, Millia is just sleeping peacefully, completely oblivious. Yep, totally knocked out, dreaming of apples and cheese, not a care in the world. Ko-chan is still stuck on the name, completely baffled by this whole situation. Now our boy has a new problem. He has a sleeping kid and absolutely no beds, just stone slabs. He considers crafting something but figures Millia will probably just leave soon anyway, problem deferred. His little helpers just watch this whole domestic drama unfold with pure, unadulterated amusement. Then comes the grim realization that if Millia stays, their already dwindling food supply is toast. Suddenly, his whole demons and humans are the same speech seems a lot less convenient. He desperately asks Lionel for intel on demon society, but his skeleton buddy just gives him silent judgment. One of the skeletons helpfully suggests they should just kick Millia out, which Ko-chan is not a fan of. Our boy just coldly admits that yeah, he is not exactly father material and raising a kid is impossible. He figures it is way more responsible to return her to society than to do a half-baked job raising her himself. A skeleton tries to give a report on the kid, but the dungeon master is just staring at some leftover food. But then one of the skeletons just starts screaming in a full-blown panic out of nowhere. Our boy is caught poking the sleeping kid's cheek, earning a frantic "do not touch her, boss" from his minion. He gets super flustered, trying to explain to Lionel that Millia has some kind of special magic. This revelation sends him stumbling backwards as he yells at them for not reporting critical info sooner. And suddenly we are hit with a flashback to a modern city skyline, completely changing the scene. This setting is Roppongi, Tokyo, where a man and woman are talking next to a van. We then see the world from the perspective of someone who is passed out on their desk in an empty office. It is our boy's past self, an office worker named Yu Takyaka, stretching after an all-nighter. His coworker Ko Shimada asks if he has actually followed up with their client yet. She then glances at the clock, pointing out that he is about to miss the last train home. A close-up on the clock confirms it is ridiculously late, and she cannot believe how much time has passed. Ko mentions her own commute is a long one, so she really needs to get going. With a worried look, she tells him he is probably not going to make it home at this rate. Despite the brutal hours, she is actually thrilled to be working on such a huge project right out of school. Turns out they are designing the official website for a movie called Labyrinth, a pretty big deal. She even insists she does not mind the all-nighters, claiming she is totally used to the corporate grind. She gets all flustered, shyly pointing out that Yu Takyaka is stuck working late with her too, and he just glances over from his desk, completely clueless about what she is getting at. Ko immediately backpedals with a frantic "it is nothing," while he just smirks totally onto her. Internally, Yu thinks she's like a small animal and that every guy in the office is probably trying to hit on her. But he quickly clarifies he is not one of them, pointing out she is way younger and they are both office outcasts. Changing the subject, Ko offers to do a late-night snack run to the convenience store downstairs, and he just gives her this smug little look, asking if she's sure she wants to do that. She already knows his order by heart, asking if he just wants the usual anpen and drink, so Yu just holds out a bill for her to take for the food. With a smooth smile, he tells her to keep the change, a classic cool upperclassman move. Ko tries to protest that she is not a kid, but she is absolutely beaming from the gesture. She playfully calls him an old man and tells him to just wait there for her. And with that, she heads out the office door on her snack mission. Now Yu is left completely alone in the vast, empty corporate wasteland, looking drained. But Ko pops back in for a second, giving him a genuinely sweet thank you for everything. He just looks back, a little confused by the sudden sincerity, and says right back at ya. She gives one last cheerful wave before heading off for real this time. And then it is just dead silence, with Yu sitting alone among rows of dark computer screens. He even mutters to himself how eerily quiet the whole place has suddenly become, just as a news report about a hostage situation in Tokyo suddenly flashes onto a nearby monitor. Yu just glances at the TV, completely unimpressed by the news of an international terrorist nearby. He figures as long as it does not directly involve him, it is really not his problem. This news gets all poetic, calling the city's empty buildings giant, hollow tombstones at night. And then the stakes get real. The reporter confirms the criminal has a rocket launcher. Live footage shows someone leaning out of a window right in the middle of the chaos. This whole situation makes him think of the movie Labyrinth, comparing society to a maze filled with complex traps, backstabbing, and people just trying to trip each other up. He mutters to himself that yeah, that is basically what a dungeon is not it? This reporter then warns that everyone in the building is now a part of this dungeon. Just as a massive flash of light erupts from a nearby building, a perfect punctuation mark. Yu is completely startled, whipping around to see what the hell that was. His brain just short-circuits, unable to process the sudden explosion in the distance. Then his face drains of all color as he realizes something is very, very wrong. Because he sees it, a projectile is heading straight for his office window. Yep, that is a whole-ass rocket coming to deliver his termination notice personally. This window explodes into a million pieces as the rocket makes a direct impact, and we snap back to the present with his skeletons frantically yelling, "Boss, boss." Our boy is on the ground, gasping and clutching his head, reliving his own death. He is sweating bullets, muttering about a killer headache. No kidding, dude. One of the skeletons just deadpans that this is the worst, clearly unimpressed by the boss's PTSD episode. A skeleton checks if the boss is still with them after that harrowing trip down memory lane, and the minion explains they are existentially linked. If he dies, they just poof out of existence. Yu just grabs the skeleton's skull in annoyance, who seems totally used to this kind of treatment. After reliving his explosive death, our boy just desperately wants a bath, cannot blame him. His ever-helpful minions are already on it, bringing him a basin of water and a cloth. He dunks the cloth on his head while the other skeletons shield their eyes, maybe from the sheer drama. While he is freshening up, Keo-chan pops up to ask the million-dollar question, what exactly is this kid? His other minions are confused, wondering where the usual stop asking questions bit is. He points at Millia, explaining her magic seems to have a nasty effect that activates on contact. His minions just strike a pose, casually explaining they are immune since they are running on his magic. This gets him thinking, so he asks if his skeletons remember their own past lives just like he did. We get another glimpse of his past as a corporate drone, a project manager who did literally everything. One of the skeletons taps his buddy's skull, trying to jog some pre-death memories loose. But they report nothing unusual, leaving Yu to ponder this new layer of weirdness. He then recalls the bandits never touched Millia directly, confirming she has some kind of dangerous power. A skeleton then describes seeing a vision of a bright, intricate building with a transparent tower. Yu just corrects him, saying it was a normal office building, not some fantasy spire. Then his brain finally catches up, and he gives the skeleton a very sharp, suspicious look. He demands to know how his minions saw his personal memories, and the skeleton just says he saw them. This skeleton then reveals it was Keo-chan talking, making Yu realize they are somehow sharing memories, a total mind freak. This skeleton gets all flustered, explaining its deep personal bond with the boss is just a little creepy. Meanwhile, Yu is having a full-blown existential crisis on the floor, mortified that he heard KO's voice from a skeleton. One of his minions just watches with a blank stare, probably wondering if the boss has finally snapped. Another skeleton tries to cheer him up, pointing out he is way less gross now than when he was covered in mud. And Yu's face just screams, I am going to dismantle you, absolutely fuming at the backhanded compliment. 2 days pass and the dungeon's awkward tension is probably at an all-time high. Our boy, still rocking the moody hood, enters the chamber to check on his unexpected guest. Inside, Millia is still completely passed out on the stone slab, with the skeletons confirming she has not moved an inch. They are connecting the dots, realizing her strange power is what let them access Yu's Takyaka memories. This triggers another flashback of them as his coworkers, totally geeking out that he worked in Roppongi. His buddy just scoffs, bragging that this level of corporate success is nothing when he really applies himself. Yu, ever the buzzkill, clarifies that the parent company is the impressive one, not their little department. Back in the present, he grimly reflects that his past life was not that great and maybe he is better off forgetting it. A skeleton asks for a plan regarding Millia, but Yu just says to let her sleep it off for now. This minion presses the issue, asking what happens if she actually wants to stay after she wakes up. With a heavy sigh, Yu just concedes that if she wants to stay, then he will let her stay. This sends his skeleton into a total meltdown, yelling at him for not consulting his loyal workforce on this major decision. This skeleton keeps ranting, asking why he is getting all competitive with a literal child over who is in charge. Another one chimes in, giving him a full-on lecture about the responsibilities of child-rearing, food, education, the works. Yu just brushes it all off with a tired, it'll probably be fine, the universal slogan for I really do not want to deal with this. One of the skeletons is just stunned, noting how easily the boss just accepted this whole crazy situation. Yu, however, is sweating, internally calling himself a sharp one with a whole lot of sarcasm, because he is suddenly seeing flashes of memories that are absolutely not his own. This vision is of a bleak stone building with a single, heavily barred window. And inside, he sees a younger, horned version of Millia looking utterly broken. It is her memory. She was kept in a straitjacket with a ball and chain, a prisoner in her own home. Seeing this, Yu decides that if she is here with him, she at least deserves to be free. His minions are immediately on board, giving a simple understood to the new plan. A bit later, a skeleton finds Yu sulking against a wall, trying to get his attention. Yu just glares back, asking what else could possibly be wrong now. But the skeleton just waves cheerfully, announcing that they are here, whoever they are. Peeking out from the dungeon entrance, Yu confirms their arrival at last, and a truly sinister grin spreads across his face as he says he's been waiting for them. Outside, a full-on investigation team rolls up in a carriage flanked by knights in armor. Meanwhile, in a nearby town, people are crowding a bulletin board, gossiping about recent events. This big rumor is that a carriage of bandits was found wiped out, with skeletons being the culprits. A group of adventurers discusses the news, confirming the bandits but questioning the whole skeleton story. A scarred man turns to his buddy, clearly asking for his take on the situation. But a kid with two-toned hair just points someone out, cheerfully identifying a guy named Ars. This crowd starts murmuring, shocked that this small guy is a special grade adventurer. So this kid Ars is a special grade adventurer, a jack of all trades with both sword and magic, and apparently a local legend. His scarred buddy is still hung up on the why, questioning the skeleton's motive for attacking the bandits in the first place. Then someone clarifies the bandits were not even killed, just found tied up, making the whole skeleton story even more bizarre. This gets Ars thinking, as he asks if the entire group in the carriage was captured together. Turns out one of the guys has an inside source. His acquaintance was on that very carriage and spilled the details. This source confirmed that by the time anyone stumbled upon the scene, the bandits were already gift-wrapped and waiting. Our special grade boy is officially stumped, muttering that the whole situation is just completely baffling. This scarred man is back to his original point, admitting he has zero idea why skeletons would play capture and release with bandits. With a determined look, Ars just says, "I get it, thanks," clearly having heard enough to make a move. He immediately tries to form a posse, asking who is coming with him to the eastern region since skeletons obviously mean a necromancer is around. This gets the whole guild buzzing. A necromancer who can summon skeletons strong enough to wipe out bandits is a serious threat. But Ars just smirks, thinking this necromancer must be wielding some seriously incredible magic power. With a confident grin, he dangles the real bait, a mage that powerful probably has a valuable magic gem. We get a helpful info dump that one of those gems is worth a month's living expenses, and suddenly greed is a great motivator. He sweetens the pot, mentioning the Lord's soldiers will also be deployed to mop up the remaining bandits. This gear start turning in the adventurers' heads, with one asking if this means the job is actually pretty safe. That is all it takes. The crowd goes wild with people yelling, "I am in," and one adventurer complaining her party picked the worst day to be off. In a flash, he has assembled a ragtag crew, including the scarred dude, all hyped up to join the hunt. Beaming with success, Ars tells his newly formed party it is time to head to the carriage. And so, a party of about 10 adventurers assembles, ready to march right towards Yu's front door. Ars is already calculating his diminished cut of the loot, realizing safety in numbers sucks for his wallet. With a smug grin, he figures this mob is just a great meat shield to buy him time to escape. It is just a survival tactic, he tells himself, so no hard feelings when he inevitably bails on them. So our hero leads his disposable party deeper into the woods, looking for the necromancer's lair. Before a cliff face, he stops, confirming this must be the spot where the skeletons appeared. But something feels off and Ars just stands there completely bewildered by the scene. His party members finally catch up, wondering where their leader vanished to and getting a real bad feeling. Meanwhile, the Lord's soldiers are also approaching, with their leader glad they brought reinforcements. This captain knows they outclass the bandits, but feels an unsettling sense of being lured into a trap. Suddenly, he is all alone, shouting into the woods and wondering what the hell is happening. One of his men calls out, pointing to something just as the ground starts to crumble. And there it is, the investigation team's carriage rolling right up to the scene as planned. Back in the dungeon, Yu is gloating that his plan worked perfectly, with his minions playing dead for effect. Counting about 10 soldiers, he notes they have got a much more serious vibe than Millia's old guards. In the distance, he spots the carriage, confirming the investigation team is here to be the main event. A skeleton asks for the plan, and Yu's face just says, "Oh, it is absolutely on." Then a little slime thing pops up, calling out to someone named Lionel and adding another layer of weird. Yu casually asks a skeleton if they are really going through with this, clearly enjoying the minion's terror. With a simple command to get ready, he sends the poor skeleton shuffling off in a panic. His minion just wonders why the boss is so nonchalant, asking if he is really just gonna open the dungeon. Yu kicks things off with a dramatic countdown, ordering his minions to get ready for the show. His skeletons break into a full sprint, casually noting they do not actually need the prep time. Outside, the soldiers are about to get a front row seat as the dungeon reveal countdown begins. This countdown continues, with the simple plan being to just open the front door. But Yu is absolutely losing it, knowing there is no way it is that straightforward. He is about to unveil his masterpiece, his grand answer to the dungeon experience. Meanwhile, Ars is hiding in the bushes, positioned to be the perfect witness to spread the word. Because our boy is producing this whole event with his skeletons as the overworked staff. And he is also the director, designer, and planner, once a project manager, always a project manager. These soldiers are the main cast, completely unaware they are about to be part of the show. With a totally unhinged grin, Yu welcomes the investigation team to his little performance. And a single bony finger hits the execute button, officially starting the trap. At the last second, the entire cliff face just violently explodes outwards. Even Yu gets blown back by the sheer force, screaming for his minions in the chaos. This adventurers and soldiers are sent scrambling for their lives from the sudden rockslide. It is a full-on landslide, the entire mountainside just collapsing into rubble. Ars and his disposable party are booking it, all thoughts of loot completely forgotten. He is in total shock, screaming about how the mountain just crumbled without any warning. His mind races, trying to figure out if a dragon or a golem is behind this madness. But then a pair of boots calmly steps out from the dust and chaos. As the dust settles, a weirdly cheerful tune starts playing, confusing the hell out of everyone. Ars is just completely baffled, scratching his head as his party members stare in disbelief. Because the entire cliff face has been replaced by a pristine dungeon entrance called Horkill, promising riches with zero risk. It is literally being advertised as the ideal dungeon, which is probably the biggest red flag in history. This Lord's soldiers are just frozen, sweating buckets as their serious mission turns into a theme park visit. And the sign is just so professionally carved, adding a whole new layer of what is even happening. To top it all off, freaking confetti starts raining down from the sky. Everyone just stands there in the fog, trying to process how a deadly landslide became a grand opening ceremony. One of the soldiers finally voices the question on everyone's mind. What is this? Back with our boy, Yu is celebrating like he just won an Oscar, screaming that his mountain trap worked perfectly. He has got his arm around a skeleton, absolutely giddy that the adventurers showed up to be his audience too. His minion, however, is completely over it, asking him to please stop with the over-the-top reaction. This skeleton points out that the invaders are having the exact same stunned reaction he is. And yup, Ars and his party are just standing there slack-jawed, their brains completely short-circuiting. Yu launches into his confused director act, wondering aloud how a clean wall and readable text just appeared. He keeps up the charade, questioning the name Horkill and the perfect timing of the sound effects. Meanwhile, two skeletons at a control panel confirm they handled the whole thing via remote control. With a dramatic flourish, Yu reveals the collapsed wall was just a cover for a trap he'd already dug out. This trap uses spatial magic to absorb all the falling debris, making the catastrophe totally harmless. He smugly explains it was pure luck Lionel knew about gunpowder, letting them make tiny, festive fireworks for the occasion. One of the skeletons is still geeking out about the trap's audio system, but Yu is just not having it. He's getting a massive headache from all the technical rambling, clearly done with this debrief. Then he notices Millia standing nearby, looking incredibly unamused by the whole conversation. So he awkwardly tries to ask what is wrong, wondering if she is mad he used her voice for the trap. Meanwhile, his minions gossip from afar, noting the boss has been talking to thin air a lot lately. Yu snaps back to business, yelling at Lionel that the presentation's impact was more than enough, but he immediately devolves into a tantrum, crying that Lionel just does not understand his genius. Even the little slime thing chimes in, telling everyone to stop judging the boss's weird quirks. Suddenly, an alert comes in. The adventurers are finally making a move towards the dungeon. Outside, Ars is just on the ground, absolutely losing it and laughing hysterically at the situation. He is laughing so hard he is crying, while his scarred buddy insists this is not a laughing matter. This rest of the party looks to him for answers, admitting they have no clue what is going on. They are all expecting their special grade leader to have some brilliant insight into this madness. And Ars, with a totally confident smile, just reads the name off the sign, Horkill Dungeon. His party is still baffled, debating whether this professionally branded entrance is even a real dungeon. Nearby, the captain of the Lord's soldiers is just as confused by the whole spectacle. Ars strolls right up to him, declaring that dungeons are adventure business, not a job for soldiers. This captain reluctantly agrees, confirming the bandits are located elsewhere along the main road. He is clearly not thrilled about this kid telling him where his jurisdiction ends, though. With a cheerful grin, Ars announces his party is heading inside, leaving the captain completely stunned. Ars puts it all together, the necromancer, the soldiers, and now this professionally branded dungeon. A quick info dump reminds us that dungeons are living entities that spawn loot, run by a mysterious dungeon master. With a greedy glint in his eye, Ars reminds his party that an untouched dungeon means a mountain of untouched treasure. This party cheers, but our boy is already thinking about traps and how he'd prefer someone else to go in first. He surveys the area, noting the mountain was carved out to make a suspiciously wide and welcoming entrance. But then he realizes none of the rubble from the landslide is actually here, it just vanished. He starts sweating, trying to calculate the insane amount of magic it would take to pull off a disappearing act that big. His eyes drift up to the perfectly carved sign, wondering how in the world it was even installed. He'd need a levitation spell just to get a closer look, a skill he conveniently does not have. One of the girls in his party notices him completely zoned out, asking if something's wrong. Ars finally steps inside, his brain immediately short-circuiting as he tries to process the scene. His scarred buddy immediately yells for him to look at what he has found, and he is holding up a wooden chair, asking with genuine confusion if that is what it is, because the entire first floor is set up like a tavern, complete with tables and a full-on bar. Another adventurer is just losing it, shouting that it looks like a restaurant is about to have its grand opening. This rest of the party explores, finding a huge open space that looks suspiciously like a banquet hall. Someone else points out what looks like a food stall, completely baffled by the setup. This girl from before spots a staircase, guessing it leads to a second floor with rooms just like an inn. She turns to Ars for answers, but he is just frozen solid, feeling like this is all a massive, elaborate trap. Pointing to a sign on the wall, she asks if this dungeon is seriously attached to a hotel. His buddy points out the obvious, asking if this is a restaurant with a banquet hall attached. Ars is completely losing it, calling the situation absurd while his party just stares at him. Then someone finds it, a plain door in a brick wall, supposedly the real dungeon entrance. Right next to the door is a professionally printed sign, because of course there is. It is a full-on welcome pamphlet, announcing a beginner course for 1 silver with a 0-risk guarantee. Our boy just repeats himself, completely floored by how utterly ridiculous this all is. Even the captain of the guard is clenching his fist, muttering that this defies all common sense. Meanwhile, Yu is getting an earful from a skeleton who is basically screaming, "I told you so." This skeleton is just beside himself, yelling about how unconventional this whole setup is. Yu snaps back, defensively asking what is so wrong with charging an entrance fee. In the background, other skeletons are arguing, perfectly mimicking their boss's little meltdown. He genuinely asks if his plan was really that weird, completely missing the point. And his minions give him a resounding, synchronized nod. Yes, boss, it absolutely was. His brilliant plan, he explains, is to lure adventurers in to kill his minions so he can level up. A skeleton points out the other minions are a little too hyped, looking more ready for war than for being farmed. With a smug pose, Yu declares this is all part of his grand strategy for promotion. Then he launches into a lecture on K-piss and conversions, and the skeletons just want him to stop. Suddenly, he is having a full-blown tantrum, screaming this was the only way he could legally make money. Calming down, he explains that since labyrinth magic is tricky, he built a non-dungeon area first. He adds that his traps are all non-lethal, designed to inconvenience, not actually harm anyone. Ars gets that look in his eye, knowing there is only one thing to do now. One of his brawler buddies volunteers to go first, but Ars is still trying to locate the entrance. So the brawler just holds up a silver coin, ready to test this beginner course himself. This second his coin hits the floor, he vanishes in a flash of light, trap activated. His party immediately panics, screaming about where he went while Ars just stares in disbelief. In a horrifying instant, it clicks for our boy, it is a teleportation magic trap. He realizes the trap only targets the person who pays, and he is damn glad he was not the first volunteer. This others want to chase after him, but Ars warns them it is useless against a teleport trap. With a grimace, he concludes the first guy to pay the toll is almost certainly dead now. But then the brawler just pops back into existence, looking more confused than anything else. Stumbling forward, he explains he was just warped back to the banquet hall, totally frustrated that he failed. His scarred buddy asks him what was inside, and the guy's eyes go wide as he remembers. He saw a massive silver ingot, and suddenly the whole party's eyes turn into greedy diamonds. Hearing silver ingot, the other adventurers are instantly sold, ready to dive in head first. A full-on argument breaks out over who gets to pay their silver coin and go next. Even his scarred friend is joining the gold rush, leaving Ars completely dumbfounded. A moment later, the crowd is gone, leaving just a few cautious adventurers behind. Ars is left wondering what the hell is going on because this is just too tempting to be real. Leaning against the wall, he waits, noting that about 10 minutes have passed since the chaos started. His remaining party members report that 7 adventurers have already gone in and come back, leaving only the skeptics. Ars, with the face of a man about to make a terrible life choice, decides it is worth a shot. He drops his silver coin into the slot, officially buying a ticket to this whole mess. In a flash, he is teleported into a big empty tiled room, already feeling the regret. At the far end sits the promised silver ingot, looking suspiciously like a giant piece of bait. Our boy immediately senses something is off because this is just way too convenient. This silver is perfectly polished without a speck of tarnish, which is physically impossible, by the way. Suddenly, a disembodied voice explains the rules. Find the one safe path or get instantly ejected. On the wall is a single button, the only clue in this entire minimalist nightmare of a room. Ars starts putting it together, realizing every adventurer must be in their own identical trap room. He stares out at the endless floor, wondering if the dungeon master just copy-pasted this level. Then he scoffs because who would be crazy enough to build dozens of these things? To solve this puzzle, he has to find an invisible path across a floor of hidden traps. His brain does some quick math, calculating there are about 3,600 identical tiles, and yup, every single tile looks exactly the same, offering zero help whatsoever. So he tries the old-school method, stabbing the floor with his sword to check for traps. This tile just magically repairs itself, basically telling him nice try, genius. A quick dungeonology lesson reminds us you cannot just break your way through a managed dungeon. This confirms it, he is in a dungeon controlled by a master and the walls are indestructible. Ars's face hardens, knowing this just got a whole lot more complicated. He stands there, realizing memorizing a path across 3,600 tiles is impossible, so there must be a trick. With no other options, Ars decides to just press the big, obvious button on the wall. He is genuinely surprised when something actually happens because this dungeon is just weird. Suddenly, a path of light appears on the floor, showing him the exact safe route to take. It leads almost all the way to the silver ingot, but conveniently stops right before the prize. Then the lights vanish, leaving him with a simple, infuriating memory game to play. He starts walking, carefully counting out the steps he memorized, 6 forward, 6 to the right. But then he gets to the next turn and his brain just completely short-circuits. This identical tiles offer zero help, just an endless grid of potential failure. He's completely lost the pattern, which was probably the entire point of this cruel trap. Our boy starts to panic, realizing this is way harder than just stabbing a pressure plate. He is frantically trying to remember the next move, knowing one misstep sends him back. This whole thing, he admits, is a lot more annoying than he originally gave it credit for. Trying to refocus, he points towards the goal to visualize the path in his head, and in a flash, he is teleported right back to the entrance hall, still pointing like an idiot. Another adventurer casually comments that yeah, failing the puzzle is pretty tough. Ars is completely losing it, screaming, "Failed? When did I even fail?" Then it hits him, the simple, elegant, and utterly infuriating trick behind the trap. He looks down at his hand, which is still frozen in that pointing gesture. While trying to trace the route in his mind, he'd extended his arm forward, and his finger passed through the airspace above a trap tile, triggering his instant ejection. Ars is absolutely losing his mind, screaming about how he failed over such a basic, stupid trick. Meanwhile, in the control room, a bar graph spikes upwards as someone watches with glee. Yu excitedly points out to his skeleton minion that adventurers are flocking to his little challenge. His monitor shows the stats. 16 out of 30 slots are currently active in the beginner course. Looking at his earnings, he has already raked in 51 silver coins, which he considers a pretty solid start. This screen is just full of analytics, tracking everything from player count to how far they get before failing. One of his minions explains the local economy. 10 silver coins gets you a night at an inn. Yu muses that he was worried the 1 silver entry fee was too high, but clearly he underestimated human greed. A little shadow creature timidly asks if this whole operation is really okay, boss. His skeleton minion then points out the obvious flaw. Not a single person has actually succeeded yet. With a smug grin, Yu declares that is the entire point because he'd be in trouble if they actually won. This prize is a total fake. He does not even have the money to make silver ingots in the first place. His skeleton buddy is just having an existential crisis, wondering if people will just give up. But Yu explains that while humans are smart, they are also prone to trying the completely unexpected. He flashes back to a time he saw a user find a bug that should not have been possible, and remembers his old life getting suckered by a claw machine. The best way to make money is to make failure look easy. This skeleton asks if people trying crazy things is not part of his grand plan then. Yu confirms it is all going as expected, even when one guy tried to shoot an arrow at the prize and got booted. He even saw someone try to walk on the walls, which was impressive but ultimately useless. People have tried dashing and peeling up tiles, you name it, he has already thought of it and blocked it. This skeleton minion is still trying to compute this, asking what kind of dungeon wastes teleport magic on a welcome mat. Yu's inner monologue kicks in, explaining he is counting on humanity's greatest weapon, their brains. With a smug grin, he tells his minions to just watch the show unfold. Meanwhile, back in the hall, Ars and the other adventurers are already huddled up, deep in strategy talks. His skeletons point out that is just what it looks asterisk-like to him, and Yu realizes he might have miscalculated. One guy lays out his findings. He has tried 4 times, and while the room is identical, the safe path changes every run. This leads Ars to a chilling conclusion. There are multiple identical rooms, which means the silver might be a fake. But the party's metals expert chimes in, insisting the gleam is unmistakably that of real, pure silver. Ars is just staring into space, admitting this whole dungeon is actually kind of brilliant. Another adventurer agrees, arguing a trap this simple has to be beatable by design. Our boy starts putting the pieces together, theorizing the dungeon master asterisk wants asterisk them to clear it. He then looks around at the banquet hall, questioning why a dungeon would need a restaurant and an inn. It is a business model designed for repeat customers, but if no one ever wins, they will just stop coming. This key, he realizes, is making adventurers feel like they are winning just enough to stay hooked, because that feeling of being so close is what will turn them into loyal, paying regulars. From his control room, Yu smirks, recognizing a smart customer when he sees one. Ars is gonna be here a while. This spiky-haired guy gets called out for being the one who hyped up the all-you-can-grab silver ingot. Now the whole party is buzzing, imagining the insane rewards on the intermediate and advanced courses, and Yu just watches them get hyped, thinking everything is going exactly as he planned. One of his underlings starts spiraling, imagining a future where no one ever wins and the dungeon goes bankrupt. One of the younger adventurers is already hooked, ready to throw another coin at the problem. Then an announcement echoes through the hall. The dungeon officially closes at sunset. And get this, anyone still inside gets a forced ejection and a full refund, which is just bizarrely good customer service. Ars and the remaining adventurers just stand there, completely baffled by the concept of a dungeon with business hours. This crowd absolutely loses it, screaming about how a dungeon having a closing time is just plain absurd. Meanwhile, Yu smirks, waving goodbye to his valued customers after raking in 89 silver with 0 winners on day 1. And so begins the legend of Hawkhill Dungeon, a place built on pure, unadulterated greed. Elsewhere, a tired-looking merchant tells some kid he needs to learn to do business on his own for once. This kid in question, a long-haired guy with glasses, just sighs, clearly not thrilled about hauling a crate around. A little doodle perfectly sums it up. He is basically being kicked out the door with some seed money and told to go try. As the merchant leaves, a woman in the shop mutters that the kid, Lucas, is way too chill for his own good. She knows you need some real hustle to survive in this world, something Lucas clearly lacks. And she is right. 2 months later, Lucas is sipping tea, realizing his funds are about to run dry. But then he overhears some guys in a tavern talking about a new local attraction, that dungeon. They are talking about Hawkhill, of course, debating the rumors that it is actually safe to enter. Lucas listens intently, a flicker of interest on his otherwise bored face. His business brain finally kicks in. No one set up a shop near the dungeon yet, meaning he could make a killing on marked-up goods. With a newfound sense of purpose, he decides to at least go check the place out himself. He arrives at the entrance, standing before the sign for the now infamous Hawkhill. But what he finds is a total dump with junk and discarded boxes everywhere, not exactly a legendary sight. Outside the dungeon, a whole makeshift camp has sprung up with people cooking and trading. It is a full-on gold rush town with merchants hawking goods to the dungeon-crazed crowd. Our boy Lucas is just taking it all in, wondering if every single person here is an adventurer. Stepping inside, he overhears there are 50 people outside and even more in here. This place is packed. He walks up to a random adventurer and asks the million-dollar question, is this dungeon actually profitable? Her answer is brutally honest. Nope, it is just a place where your money goes to die. In fact, she says the only person who has actually profited so far is that guy Ars, and there is our old pal Ars, apparently the one guy smart enough to actually study the dungeon's rules. This girl assumes Lucas is here for a treasure chest, but he admits he knows nothing about it, so she just points him toward the dungeon entrance, basically telling him to go see for himself. He quickly clarifies that he is just a merchant, not some hero looking for a fight. With a smirk, she says that is probably for the best. Adventurers have a way harder time clearing this place. She then drops the price tag on him, 1 silver coin to give it a whirl. Lucas immediately gets flustered, insisting he has absolutely no intention of trying, but she just leans back, cool as a cucumber, and reminds him it is 1 silver to enter. Our boy is completely speechless, clearly not used to being put on the spot like this, and despite all his protests, his feet start moving toward the beginner course entrance anyway. Next thing he knows, he is in that same tiled room, staring at the wall of rules just like ours did. With a look of pure resignation, he reaches out to press the big, obvious button. And just like that, our non-adventurer merchant is officially a paying customer of this ridiculous dungeon. Lucas steps into the puzzle room, looking way too composed for this nonsense. He takes his first step onto the grid, not a hint of fear on his face. Standing in the center, he just calmly assesses the situation, a total opposite of our boy Ars. His brain is running on classic RPG logic, where dungeons are for fighting monsters and getting loot. But this place is just a weird, life-threatening puzzle with no monsters in sight. Lucas quietly asks himself what the hell this place is even supposed to be. He is already analyzing the business model, wondering who built it and why it feels more like a store than a death trap. Our boy then tries the direct approach, asking the empty room if the dungeon master could maybe explain the concept. And he gets exactly the response you'd expect: absolute deafening silence. With a sigh, he admits that yeah, that was probably a stupid question to ask out loud. Then he adjusts his glasses, convinced he has cracked the code. Only a human could have cleared this. And with that, he just starts walking across the floor with total confidence. He does not even hesitate, just strolling right across the deadly tiles like he owns the place. Reaching the prize, he casually declares that he will be taking the silver now. He reaches out to grab the ingot, having apparently solved the puzzle on his first try. We flash back to the day before, showing a massive pile of shiny silver coins. In the control room, Yu is practically swimming in his earnings, celebrating his genius business plan. He is bragging about the stats: over 1,000 silver in a week with a 75% day one retention rate. Then he starts rambling about user acquisition and retention drop-off, completely losing his skeleton minions in corporate jargon. Yu is just cackling about his K-piss while shaking a skeleton who has no idea what is happening, a true startup villain. His minion is giving him a look that just screams, "I am so done with this startup." Yu, meanwhile, is trying out his new corporate jargon like a college kid who just discovered economics. Looking at their mountain of cash, the skeleton wonders if they can even make one real prize out of it. So Yu just casually uses his dungeon master powers to literally pull pure silver out of the coins, which at first just creates this ugly, lumpy rock of metal on the table. But then he just pokes it a few times, shaping it into the prize for the intermediate course. And just like that, he's got 3 perfect, shiny silver ingots, though they seem a bit small. He decides multiple small prizes look more enticing, while his skeleton buddy is just terrified of his boss's schemes. This minion points out that kind of fine metalwork would normally take a whole team of artisans. His skeleton then asks if he is seriously planning to put these in every single challenge room. Yu snaps back that they have 40 rooms, asking if the skeleton has done the math on that. And the skeleton enthusiastically calculates they will need 120 ingots, which is absolutely not the point Yu was making. A little diagram explains the real trick. Touching the prize does not give you the prize, it just triggers a teleport trap. One of his minions is horrified, asking if they are really gonna scam adventurers who finally win. But Yu explains they do not teleport the asterisk player asterisk, they just teleport the asterisk prize to a single real goal room. With the plan set, a little shadow creature happily places the real ingot on its pedestal. Suddenly an alert goes off, someone actually cleared it, and his minions are absolutely losing their minds. Yu just watches as a silhouette appears in the prize room, muttering that he knew this guy would show up. And of course, it is our boy Ars, holding the ingot and looking smug as hell about it. One of the minions calls him a special grade adventurer, a term that clearly catches Yu off guard. This skeleton explains that above special grade are national level heroes, but that is basically unheard of. His minion then starts complaining that Ars took their only silver ingot, which feels a little cheap. But Yu is not worried, saying the most important thing is that the dungeon is operational and gaining traction. He sees this as a huge promotional win. Ars winning will make Hawkill's reputation absolutely explode. Once word gets out that the prize is 100% pure silver, he predicts customers will be lining up around the block. His underling asks if he really planned this far ahead, and Yu just smugly says, obviously. But the skeleton points out a flaw: what if Ars wants to try again, and does he even have the money for it? This sends another minion into a full-blown panic, realizing their prize supply cannot keep up with demand. Yu just calmly drops another rule on them: you can only clear the dungeon once per day. And the skeleton just stares blankly, completely unable to process this new information. Yu explains it is simple: he is using a biometric authentication system to prevent repeat winners. His minion has absolutely no idea what biometric authentication is supposed to mean. So Yu clarifies that they scan every adventurer's iris upon entry, creating a unique ID for each person. This skeleton is just speechless, muttering boss, while Yu coolly asks what the problem is. After a moment, the minion just calls the whole system insane, but Yu is beaming with pride over his creation. He is even thinking about how iris scanning is not mainstream back in Japan, making him a true innovator. When asked if ours will try the intermediate course, Yu says it will not be open for a while yet. This skeleton is baffled, questioning why they'd stop their best advertisement from playing again tomorrow. Yu has to remind him of the one clear per day rule, which makes the minions scream about ours being broke. Meanwhile, Ars's party is already strategizing, telling him he needs a serious level up for what is next. Yu smirks, confident it'll take Ars days to clear the dungeon again, giving them plenty of time to profit. He is cackling to his minions about his flawless plan, while one skeleton is just not buying it at all. But the very next day, a minion bursts in screaming that someone else already cleared it, and Yu is horrified. We see the new winner's boots stepping into the final chamber, and it is Lucas who immediately deduces the silver ingot was rigged with a teleportation spell. He looks over at the altar, which is now completely bare with no prize in sight. Suddenly, a hooded figure appears behind him, and Lucas is startled by the dungeon master himself. Our boy immediately asks if this mysterious person is the one running this whole bizarre operation. This hooded Yu just gives a simple non-committal yeah, confirming his identity. Lucas processes this, concluding that only a true genius could have created such an unconventional dungeon. Yu looms over him, saying he has questions, and whether Lucas answers is entirely up to him. This completely throws Lucas for a loop, since he was the one who wanted to ask the questions first. Yu cuts him off, demanding to know what he's even talking about, then immediately faceplants on the floor, apologizing profusely in the most pathetic way possible. Lucas is just left standing there, completely baffled by this sudden and dramatic change in personality. Yu explains he did not think anyone would clear it this fast, so he has not even made the next prize yet. He points to the empty pedestal, admitting his prize supply cannot keep up with the winners. From the floor, he gives another tiny, pathetic sorry for the inconvenience, a true professional. Lucas is just losing his mind, admitting he has absolutely no idea what is going on anymore. Popping back up, Yu says he will give the silver to Ars but not him, then asks if Lucas is broke. Yu insists he was totally going to give him the prize, but there was a slight, logistical error. Lucas is just listening, thinking this guy sounds exactly like a student begging for a loan extension. He's trying to figure out what the hell is actually going on with this so-called dungeon master. Meanwhile, Yu's on the floor convincing himself this pathetic act is a genius test of character. Hearing this, Lucas just turns away, concluding this guy is an unbelievably terrible person. So he just adjusts his glasses and says he does not even need the silver, which completely stuns Yu. Yu immediately pops up, celebrating his successful Japanese diplomacy, a master of negotiation clearly, but Lucas cuts him off, saying that instead he wants something else, seeing his chance to take control. This dungeon master is completely floored by this turn of events, just repeating the word instead. And now he is convinced Lucas is just some kind of monster toying with his emotions for fun. Lucas then asks what he wants, offering to throw him a bone like a dog, which Yu politely declines. What our boy actually wants is information, asking the dungeon master to teach him a few things. He gets straight to the point, why did you build this absolutely ridiculous dungeon in the first place? Yu's answer is shockingly simple and pathetic, he just wanted to be able to afford food. He then tries to justify it, saying the whole point of this elaborate death trap is just for his next meal. Lucas is just speechless, calling it a completely idiotic reason to build a dungeon full of teleportation traps. This clearly hits a nerve with Yu, who just glares at him from under his hood, and Lucas immediately realizes he might have just said something he probably should not have. Yu absolutely explodes, screaming about how Lucas figured out he is completely broke, leaving our boy utterly baffled by this sudden and very pathetic confession. Lucas is just standing there, completely short-circuiting after that pathetic confession. Meanwhile, Yu's having an internal meltdown, accusing Lucas of being another rival who has come to mock him. Our boy is so taken aback by the outburst he just turns away in stunned silence. He starts walking off, his whole theory about a super-intelligent dungeon master now in flames. Lucas realizes this whole conversation is a bizarre power play, and he is definitely not in control. With a sigh, he basically admits defeat, which completely catches Yu off guard. Yu asks what is with the sudden change, and Lucas admits he thought his true purpose was exposed. Then he just launches into a backstory about being a genius in business school who always felt inferior. Yu is just watching, totally confused by this sudden and deeply unnecessary personal monologue. This flashback shows one of his old rivals, a guy who was apparently a total natural at everything. Lucas explains he never thought he'd meet a business rival he simply could not compete with, but after experiencing it, he has to admit this bizarre dungeon was absolutely brilliant. He could not even begin to imagine the mind of a person who would build something so unconventional, and it has given him a thrill he has not felt in years, the excitement of the unknown. He is wrestling with the hope of finding a true equal versus the despair of being totally outclassed. So he looks right at Yu and declares that the dungeon master is even more incredible than the dungeon. Yu is just standing there like, me, completely baffled by the sudden hero worship. Lucas grabs him, getting way too close while fanboying about being outsmarted, and Yu is screaming about personal space. Composing himself, Lucas apologizes for getting carried away, saying he just wants to talk, and Yu, probably just relieved the weird grabbing has stopped, cautiously agrees to chat. So Yu kicks things off, still trying to figure out what this guy's whole deal is. Lucas immediately starts grilling him, asking how many attempts it took to clear the dungeon, to which Yu just deadpans that it was his first try, and Lucas is absolutely floored. So Lucas, ever the businessman, suggests they set up shop right here in the prize room. This guy then points out that Yu does not look like an adventurer, guessing he is a merchant. Yu lays out his master plan, sell food, supplies, and lodging to the adventurers, and Lucas is just like, "You really think that is gonna sell?" A true vote of confidence. Yu just gives him a dead-eyed stare, asking if he seriously does not understand. This absolutely breaks Lucas's brain. He cannot remember the last time someone told him he was wrong, and instead of being offended, the guy gets weirdly giddy, gushing about how fun it is to be clueless for once. Our boy is just totally weirded out by this, awkwardly confirming that yeah, of course it'll sell. Then Lucas starts connecting the dots, realizing that since the dungeon closes at sunset, adventurers will need supplies. He asks if this is the business Yu wants to discuss, and our boy just tells him to get on with it. This business genius is absolutely thrilled, realizing this is his ticket to spending unlimited time with his new idol. He is so on board he is ready to start immediately, practically vibrating with excitement. Yu, meanwhile, is just trying to survive the sheer force of this guy's personality, offering a weak thanks. With the deal struck, Yu just casually conjures a table and chairs for their first official meeting. But then a thought hits Lucas. He remembers Yu calling himself a novice earlier. He realizes there is no way a mere novice could possess such intellect, turning to ask Ars what he thinks. Meanwhile, Yu's just chilling with a drink, explaining the dungeon was not dangerous, just unconventional. Ars's teammate just deadpans that yeah, unconventional is definitely one word for it. Lucas just starts cackling like a maniac, prompting the woman to ask if he is even okay. But he is lost in his own world, gushing about how he has finally met a mind that gives him true hope. Without another word, he turns and starts walking off, announcing he is heading back to town. Then he declares his grand plan. He's going to be the first person to set up shop right here. And he is not just walking, he is full-on sprinting, screaming about becoming Yu's #1 disciple. This is a cult now. Ars just watches him go, completely baffled and wondering what on earth is wrong with that guy. A little character card notes Lucas's flaw is overthinking, as he realizes it is a 3-hour run back to town. This very next day, a whole new general store called Hill's Shop has appeared near the dungeon. Right next to it is Hill's Restaurant, already staffed and seemingly ready for business. And to complete the instant business district, there is a brand new hotel, the Hawk Inn. Ars is just standing there in total disbelief because none of this existed yesterday. Suddenly, Lucas is behind the front desk, smoothly quoting room prices like he owns the place. An adventurer immediately steps up, asking for a shared room and a currency exchange. This innkeeper offers a great exchange rate with no fees for guests, a seriously clever business tactic. This new inn is surprisingly large, with 15 rooms and a total capacity of 60 people. Inside, the dorms are already filling up with adventurers making themselves at home. An employee shows off a room with some classic no-frills bunk beds for the budget-conscious. He then points out the toilet is down the hall, which seems pretty standard for an inn. But Lucas immediately questions it, since they are on the 3rd floor and this world usually just has outhouses. This employee explains the toilets use magic stones to purify waste once a day. This is some next-level plumbing. Lucas just deadpans that since it is a closed system, there is no problem, completely unfazed by the tech. This poor guy is just left speechless, his brain totally short-circuiting from the casual analysis. He then shows off the sink, which uses a water magic stone to provide running water on demand. This employee quickly adds that it is nothing special, so please use it freely, clearly trying to downplay the genius. He tells Lucas to just let him know if there are any issues, practically begging him not to overthink it. As a bonus, he even hands over a discount card for the restaurant, a classic customer service move. Lucas just watches him scurry away, the gears in his head definitely turning about all this. Back at the front desk, we see a couple of picture frames sitting on the otherwise empty counter. Suddenly, Lucas calls out to someone off screen, his expression sharp and focused. And it is Yu who pops up asking what Sensei wants now, looking completely over this whole arrangement. Lucas gets this smug look, asking if that makes him the disciple. Oh, he is loving this dynamic. With the inn officially open for business, they survey their brand new and very, very empty lobby. Lucas immediately points out the one glaring problem: they have absolutely zero customers. Yu admits that yeah, business is a little slow right after opening day, a master of understatement. His theory is that most adventurers would rather just camp outside for free than pay for a room. So the plan is to make the inn so ridiculously comfortable that people will choose to pay for luxury. In one of the rooms, Yu declares their next big project is a bathhouse, and Lucas is immediately intrigued. He asks what kind of bath is popular around here, and Yu just gives a one-word answer: steam. Lucas is already designing a sauna in his head, figuring out the heating system needed to control the temperature. Lucas is immediately on board with the sauna idea, his business brain already spinning. But Yu just waves him off, asking if there are any other problems with the inn, and Lucas, fully embracing his new disciple role, says there is a lot he wants his sensei to teach him. Our boy just deadpans that he is a total amateur who slapped this place together, so go ahead. Taking that as a formal invitation, Lucas launches into a full-blown business critique. His first point: there is absolutely no place to wash or dry the mountain of linens. This river is way too far to be practical, making laundry a logistical nightmare. On top of that, the hallways are too narrow to even move large furniture around. He even points out the east-facing layout makes the whole inn feel gloomy, and Yu is floored. After hearing the entire laundry list of problems, Yu just calmly says he will take care of it. His estimated time for a complete architectural overhaul: 2 or 3 days, which completely breaks Lucas. Yu explains that expanding the building with dungeon magic is easy, he just needs to prep for more people. Then he throws the sensei title right back at Lucas, who is just left standing there in awe. A bit later, Lucas notices the lobby is suddenly way more crowded, wondering what happened. He glances at his watch, realizing the time of day must be the key factor. This guy's already tracking data, noting challengers are up by 20 people compared to yesterday. Yu casually corrects his terminology, asking if he means statistics instead of just numbers. This word statistics completely stops Lucas in his tracks. That is not an amateur's term. Our boy has a brief moment of panic, wondering if basic data analysis is some kind of alien concept here. But Lucas clarifies that no, it is a highly specialized field, which only makes Yu seem even more brilliant. Lucas explains that while he gets the value of statistics, it is a concept lost on most people. His prediction is that as more challengers arrive, the inn's business will naturally boom, and Yu is not impressed. Yu just shuts that down, explaining the current crowd is just from ours' success. The real wave is still coming. A confused Lucas just stands there, totally lost, repeating the words, the next wave. Our boy explains that the prize was not just silver, it was pure silver, and once that news spreads, a gold rush is on. This completely blows Lucas's mind. He cannot believe Yu planned for a second, greed-fueled rush of people. Internally, Yu's just like, yep, he is smart, realizing Lucas understands the two-wave strategy. So he just sits back, telling Lucas to go ahead and lay out his own predictions. Lucas gets all flustered and excited, like he is about to present a book report to his hero. His first point: word will spread that this dungeon offers a legitimate, valuable reward. But then he teases that there is another, even bigger factor at play here. Asking for confirmation: is the silver 100% pure? Yu just gives a bored yep. Lucas practically explodes with validation, screaming that he knew it. This reason it is a big deal is that 100% pure silver is technologically impossible, making its existence a massive draw. Meanwhile, Yu's thinking that while this was a dungeon function, he never planned for Lucas to use it for refining. With a snap, Lucas declares that once word gets out, people will come from everywhere. That is the second wave. And he is back to full-on worship mode, praising his sensei for a business model nobody has ever conceived. Yu just smirks, dropping the word branding on him, which leaves Lucas totally confused. Our boy lays out his 2 core principles. It is perfectly safe and the reward is exclusive. To top it off, anyone can try with no waiting, an absolutely irresistible offer for any adventurer. Lucas is just nodding along, his brain absolutely buzzing as he processes this branding concept. He then asks what Yu meant about the surrounding area being a problem, which was his one big hang-up. Yu just deadpans that sure, the dungeon's a cakewalk, but the monster-infested forest to get there is not. Which is exactly why the inn is genius. It is a clean, safe haven from all that wilderness nonsense. This light bulb goes off and Lucas just explodes with pure, unadulterated business ecstasy. He gets it now. He asks if that is why Yu scouted him, and our boy just gives a tired yep, completely drained. Yu then notices Lucas is already handing out Hawk Hill branded plates, having instantly grasped the concept. Sitting like a king on his throne, Yu asks about the plates and Lucas immediately starts apologizing for jumping the gun. But Yu just shuts him down, explaining that is not a problem, it is literally the entire point of branding. Lucas presents a plate with the crazed eyes of a true zealot, and Yu is justifiably terrified. Turns out this madman paid to have them custom-made overnight, and he is pretty proud of the design. Yu asks where he even got the cash for this, and Lucas just casually admits he took out a loan. Then he puts all the pressure on Yu, basically saying he is betting his own reputation on this venture succeeding. And Yu is absolutely panicking, convinced this guy will actually murder him if the business fails. Later, Yu demonstrates some kind of intermediate formation magic while casually sitting on a toilet as you do. Lucas is left completely speechless, his mind blown by this casual display of high-level magic. Then with a flash, Yu summons a whole pile of plates, explaining he just whipped up 100 of them with dungeon magic. Lucas picks one up, examining the magically created merchandise with intense focus. He notes that Yu's design is slightly different but way more beautiful than his own rushed version. Yu just shrugs it off, saying he just used a fancier font because he is good at that kind of thing. Lucas is absolutely fawning over the plate's craftsmanship, gushing about its perfect curves. Yu just casually drops that it is a universal design, like it is no big deal. And that word completely short-circuits Lucas's brain, universal. Our boy explains it is a design anyone can use, with rounded corners so you do not poke yourself, accessibility in a fantasy world. This concept completely shatters Lucas's reality, leaving him utterly speechless. He is just standing there clutching the plate, vibrating with the sheer genius of it all. This poor guy is having a full-on fanboy meltdown over basic ergonomics. Yu is so over it, basically telling him to get a grip already, it is just a plate. He then says he has high expectations for Lucas so he can go ahead and use them. This praise from his sensei just about sends Lucas into another dimension. He tearfully swears he will not betray that trust, vowing to see this venture succeed. Yu is getting a really bad vibe from this level of devotion as Lucas asks for his next orders, his brilliant solution to this awkward hero worship. Let us go eat. This scene cuts to the restaurant, which is already packed with happy adventurers. They head towards a very fancy-looking door at the back of the establishment. And of course there is a sign for a VIP room. This place has everything. Inside, Yu is sitting all by himself at a massive, otherwise empty dining table. He is practically drooling with anticipation, steam coming off him like a cartoon character. Then the main course arrives, a massive, glistening cliff dragon roast steak. This kid is absolutely losing his mind with joy. He is about to eat actual dragon. This steak is sizzling like crazy with the juices and sauce making an absolutely divine sound. Yu cuts into the meat and it is so tender that the juices just immediately start pouring out. His entire being just short-circuits for a second from the sheer anticipation of this meal. He lifts a perfect piece, the literal food of his dreams after being trapped in another world, which hits extra hard when you remember he survived for 200 days by converting magic into energy. With tears welling up, he finally gets to say a proper thank you for the food before digging in. He takes that first glorious bite and you can just feel the world stop turning for a moment. And then the flavor just absolutely detonates in his mouth. Our boy is just weeping with pure unadulterated joy, completely overwhelmed by the taste. He is practically flying across the room, screaming that the garlic sauce is a perfect match. Even Lucas is having a full-on emotional breakdown, gushing about how tender dragon meat is. In a food-crazed frenzy, Yu just points his knife at Lucas and demands he bring more. Lucas is completely stunned by the order, while Yu is just lost in a state of pure meaty bliss. But then he just faceplants onto the table. Turns out a steak is a bit much after half a year of starving. 2 weeks later, a cloaked figure is seen observing the area around Hawk Hill. It is Ars, the first adventurer to clear the dungeon, and he seems pretty confused by what he is seeing. He notices that the number of people camping outside for free has dropped significantly. Apparently, while everyone was wary of the inn at first, a few brave souls gave it a shot. And now word is spreading like wildfire, with everyone raving about the steam bath. Ars just facepalms, clearly realizing he missed out on all the good stuff. Ars realizes this whole setup is basically designed to trap adventurers, making them part of the dungeon's economy. He is also trying to place Lucas, this bizarrely competent merchant who just appeared out of thin air. Businessman that skilled should be famous, but Ars has never even heard his name before. Shaking it off, he focuses on the real problem, what the hell he is supposed to do now. A memory surfaces of hearing 2 other people finally cleared the beginner level just a few days ago, and the reward for that clear was the legendary 100% pure silver, the source of all this madness. That prize got him swarmed with offers from merchants and researchers, all desperate for the impossible metal. His 3 ingots cashed out for a life-changing 1,200 silver coins, a massive payday. But there is a catch. The beginner level suddenly got way harder and now he cannot clear it. This leaves him wondering if he needs to completely rethink his strategy to beat it again. His first method was pure memorization, trying to learn the 10 or so trap patterns he'd identified. That brilliant plan failed spectacularly every single time because of course it did. So he switched tactics, clearing a 30-meter patch of grass to practice walking distances blindfolded. This goal was to internalize the trap locations so he would not be fooled by visual cues on the floor. This mostly led to him just blindly crashing into other challengers, a great look for the first champion. But after 14 grueling attempts using this method, he finally managed to clear the dungeon again. This very next day, he went back in only to find the difficulty had spiked once more. Now there are red and blue tiles. Red is always bad, but blue is only asterisk, sometimes a trap, just to be a jerk. His whole blindfolded strategy is now completely useless, and he is seriously considering just packing it in. After 100 more failures, he's been stuck for 3 days with absolutely no new ideas. Ars is stewing over the other 2 winners, figuring they must have been desperate after 100 tries. While he is sulking on a rock, a group of adventurers starts to approach him. He is just trying to mope in peace when he spots them hanging around nearby. A cocky-looking guy with 2 buddies walks right up, surprised to see a rich guy like Ars camping out. Ars just looks up, totally dead inside, and asks them what they want. This trio looms over him, clearly looking for something from the dungeon's first champion. Their leader, a spiky-haired dude, keeps grinning, still shocked to see the famous Ars roughing it. Our boy is not impressed, noting they are having a grand old time while he is miserable. This guy then starts bragging that he sold his silver reward for 3 gold coins. This completely floors Ars. He got a massive payday, so that means the price is absolutely tanking. He remembers his first clear netted him 12 gold coins per ingot, and now the value is in freefall. With more winners, the supply of pure silver is flooding the market, just as he'd feared. So the spiky-haired guy makes his pitch. They should team up and share info. His brilliant plan is for them to combine their one-time clear knowledge to figure out the second run. Ars just glares, realizing this guy is just as stuck and frustrated as he is. He thinks back to all the other adventurers who have tried to get information out of him. His policy was to only trade info for something of equal value, but nobody had anything to offer. So he just shuts the guy down cold, saying there is no mutual benefit here. This guy's buddies get pissed, scoffing that Ars's first clear was probably just a fluke. And the leader snaps back that this is exactly why everyone calls him Stingy Ars. What a reputation. This spiky-haired guy whines that Ars is a hypocrite for not sharing info with other adventurers. He throws a fit, accusing Ars of just trying to show off by beating the dungeon alone. Moping, he mutters about how disappointed he is that the great adventurer is such a small-minded jerk. Ars just gives him a dead-eyed stare, warning him not to get too full of himself. That cold glare is enough to shut the guy up, his ego clearly taking a direct hit. So naturally, his next move is to yell for his buddies to surround Ars and beat him up, diplomacy at its finest. A whole mob of guys with makeshift weapons starts closing in, looking ready for a fight. Ars just calmly assesses the situation, noting there are 6 of them and he was about to leave anyway. His hand rests on his sword as he thinks this might be a good chance to let loose. He then challenges the whole group, offering to teach them what a special grade adventurer really is. This leader just screams, "Shut up," completely losing his cool in the face of that confidence. With a battle cry, the mob charges forward while Ars just stands there, completely unbothered. One of the goons swings a club with all the grace of a falling tree. Ars effortlessly dodges the clumsy attack, leaving the guy swinging at empty air. He has already moved past the first attacker, not even breaking a sweat. His expression is pure, unfiltered boredom. This is barely a warm-up for him. This leader frantically orders his crew to surround him and pin him down, a truly brilliant strategy. One of the bigger guys tries to grab him from behind, looking incredibly pleased with himself. But Ars just plants his foot, preparing a little surprise for the incoming goon. And with a simple leg sweep, he sends the guy tumbling head over heels. So much for that plan. This tripped goon scrambles up, screaming that he is not to be underestimated. Too late for that, buddy. Before the guy can even get his footing, Ars is already closing the distance for the next takedown. And he just casually plants a fist right in the dude's face, zero ceremony involved. Another one swings wildly with a club, but Ars ducks under it like it is moving in slow motion. These guys are now complaining he is too small a target, which is a new excuse for we are bad at fighting. Ars just flicks his hand, completely dismissing their pathetic attempt at a threat. Their leader is getting seriously rattled as his brilliant plan falls apart spectacularly. Without even turning around, Ars somehow takes out another goon with a blast of force. He even has the nerve to smile, musing that he might have gone a little overboard. Another thug gets absolutely launched by a single, perfectly placed punch. This spiky-haired leader is just watching his whole crew get dismantled, completely losing his mind. He is absolutely seething, screaming at Ars for getting so cocky. Meanwhile, in a totally different part of the story, Yu is just vibing with a skeleton pal. His bony friend notes that the new clothes have really put the boss in a good mood. Yu mentions he can finally go to the restaurant, though he still feels a bit queasy. Strolling through the dungeon, he suddenly stops, hearing something from a side passage. Inside, 2 skeletons are looking at a monitor in what seems to be a control room. Yu asks them to show him what is happening on the surface, curious about the commotion. His eyes go wide with surprise as he tells his skeleton buddy, Lionel, to check it out. And on the screen, they see Ars in the middle of that very same brawl, absolutely wrecking those adventurers. Lionel points out the 6-on-1 odds, asking the boss if he should go teach them a lesson. Yu, with a completely straight face, corrects him that it is actually just 6 guys. Back on the surface, the goons are convinced they have Ars cornered just by surrounding him, but Ars just tells them to watch closely as he effortlessly tosses them all aside. Suddenly, intricate magic circles begin to materialize all around him, and he slams his fist into the ground, unleashing a spell that shatters the very earth. Down in the control room, Yu and Lionel are losing their minds over the Iron Gauntlet spell. Yu immediately wants to learn it, but Lionel explains he lacks the aptitude for it. This sends our boy into a full-blown tantrum about his lame, trap-based powers. Lionel snaps him out of it, pointing out that the other guy is casting a spell too. This spiky-haired leader is desperately weaving hand signs for a counterattack. He is putting every last bit of his focus into this one final gambit, and he unleashes a massive lightning blast, another powerful mid-tier spell. Yu is completely starstruck, geeking out over the cool-sounding Raiden attack. Of course, he wants to learn asterisk that asterisk 1 too, but gets shot down again for not having the right affinity. So he is back to whining, demanding his dungeon core Kyo-chan give him some attack magic. Kyo-chan appears and just flatly informs him he has 0 offensive spells available, ouch. She then asks if her delivery was too cold, which is just next-level emotional damage. As Kyo-chan sighs in the background, Lionel tries to console the completely defeated Yu. Meanwhile, the fight's already over, with Ars standing victorious over the punk leader. Ars stands over the punk leader, who is now eating dirt and regretting every single life choice. Downstairs, Yu is losing it over the lightning, but Lionel clarifies Ars used an item to dodge the hit. Taking a direct lightning blast and walking it off makes Yu realize just how nuts a special grade adventurer is. Lionel gets to be smug about it, reminding Yu he told him not to underestimate the guy, a classic "I told you so." Floating around as Chibis, they figure if Ars is stuck, he will probably just give up and leave in a few days. And they are right, Ars is already thinking if there is no more profit, it is time to pack up and go home. This gives you a brilliant, terrible idea. Time to open the beginner's second dungeon to keep his new toy around. A tiny skeleton in shades pops up, representing the sheer coolness of this very responsible decision. Lionel, however, is not buying the cool guy act, asking if you is asterisk really asterisk sure about this. You just pouts, wondering what the big deal is. He is just gonna unleash that thing. His bony friend immediately panics, warning him it is a massive mana drain, but you just scoffs with his 3 million points. So with a dramatic fist pump, he officially declares the second dungeon open, while Lionel dies a little inside. This skeleton crew immediately gets to work, ready to execute the boss's totally not trackless new plan. Moments later, a little stick figure skeleton zips back with a report for the boss. Meanwhile, two other skeletons are already gossiping about the whole situation. Dungeon life is never dull. This messenger reports a grave situation has developed, which sounds way more serious than it probably is. You just deadpans, realizing it is a report from the demon tribe's room. He then draws a complete blank, prompting his skeleton to ask if the boss has seriously forgotten already. Lionel absolutely explodes, reminding him about the demon kid he saved. How could he forget that? Flustered, you insists he totally remembers, basically telling everyone to shut up before they can call him out on it. You finally asks what is up with the demon kid, looking completely uninvested. Lionel explains that the kid who has been out cold this whole time has finally woken up. This prompts you to ask just how long she was out, clearly having lost track of time. Lionel gets all smug, saying from his perspective it was barely any time at all thanks Bone Dad. Meanwhile, in the demon kid's room, someone is definitely starting to stir. Peeking around the corner, you confirms with a gulp that the demon kid is officially up and about. She lets out a massive yawn, totally oblivious to the peeping skeletons in her doorway. This demon girl stretches, remarking on her long nap, while you in the background is just absolutely losing his mind. Her eyes snap open as she suddenly notices something feels different. Her first thought upon waking is that she is hungry, which is just great timing for poor flustered you. She asks if he is even listening, but our boy is too busy trying not to spontaneously combust. He just waves her off, yelling at her to be quiet because she just woke up, peak hospitality right there. She just stares back, totally confused by his outburst and asking what he is even talking about. Our boy is completely bug-eyed, stammering that she has grown like 30 centimeters since he last saw her, and it is not just her height that has had a significant growth spurt. She even points out that her body has matured quite a bit too, just in case he missed it. This new information sends you into a state of pure, vibrating panic. So she just smacks him down, yelling that he is being loud and that sleeping kids grow. It is basic biology genius. He is left completely speechless on the floor with his skeleton buddy peeking out like, "You okay there, boss?" Leaning over him, she repeats that kids who sleep a lot tend to grow, explaining it like he is 5 years old. She just glares at him, telling him to shut his mouth. The gratitude is just overwhelming. Yu is having a complete system failure, screaming that she has turned into a giant old man, or wait, no she has not. She then tries to claim his asterisk name, Takyaka Yu, while he points out that is literally him. Posing dramatically, she complains about saving a boy who turned out to be a girl, and now she is hungry. The logic is flawless. Our boy is just not having it, yelling at her to be quiet while she screams about being hungry. And she just keeps screaming it over and over because that is how you get what you want, right? A short time later, she is happily tearing into some food, finally getting a decent meal. Turns out you just got her some takeout and random clothes from a general store, peak dungeon master hospitality. We learn her name is Millia, and since she is technically an adult, the growth spurt was not weird at all. Yu, looking completely done with this, tells her he will pay for now, but she owes him big time. Miria just blinks with a full mouth, asking what money is. Oh, this is gonna go well. She then plops down on his head, trying to guilt him about making a beautiful girl pay him back. But Yu is completely immune, listing off how her rough speech and different species are total turnoffs. This actually shocks her as she asks if he is really not attracted to her in the slightest. His deadpan silent stare is the only answer she needs, and it is a resounding nope. He backpedals slightly, admitting he is maybe a little asterisk interested, but she is just baffled by his lack of enthusiasm. After a moment of thought, Yu seems to have an idea, letting out a small ah. Miria, still focused on the important things, asks him where his house is while mid-chew. This awkward silence that follows confirms it. Our dungeon master does not actually have a home. So he offers to send her back to her scary dad, but the cold silence from her says that is not an option either. Yu snaps that he saved her and in his dungeon you have to work to eat. This gets Miria thinking, latching onto his choice of words, my dungeon. She puts two and two together, asking if he is a dungeon master, and he just casually confirms it. Miria is absolutely blown away, gushing that she has never met a dungeon master before. Our boy is completely flustered as she keeps calling him cool, a word he is not used to hearing. Her praise totally works and he is blushing as she geeks out over him controlling everything. He tries to play it cool, but Lionel just deadpans that the boss is way too easy to flatter. Now that she is a fan, Miria immediately demands a grand tour of the whole place. You get super smug, warning her not to get lost, while Lionel again calls him out for being a pushover. This first stop is a massive, high-tech command center staffed by skeletons, leaving Miria speechless. He is just soaking it all in, puffing his chest out with pride over his impressive setup. Meanwhile, two of the skeleton staff are just gossiping about what the heck is going on. Lionel explains to Miria that the boss has a taste for this kind of wasteful spending, which Yu denies. Miria's attention is then caught by a giant screen, and she points, demanding to know what it is. Yu explains it is a live map of the dungeon, showing the general location of any challengers inside. She assumes he means adventurers, but Yu clarifies that it is not just for them. Then he drops the bombshell that even merchants have managed to clear his dungeon. This information completely short-circuits Miria's brain. Merchants clearing a dungeon is unheard of. Yu just tells her it is easier to show than explain, assuring her there is no real danger. She is still reeling from the merchant thing, as Lionel calls his boss's methods unconventional, to say the least. Yu lays down the law, telling Miria that if she is gonna freeload, she'd better get used to his rules. He then points out the teleportation panel, which has a totally reasonable entrance fee of 1 silver coin. Miria immediately starts screaming that she is broke, but Yu is just not interested in her problems. With a look of pure indifference, he says he is not in the business of shaking down the penniless. He just tells her to get going then, leaving her looking completely defeated by his cold shoulder. Her mood flips instantly as she happily runs off to take on the dungeon, leaving Yu totally baffled. Smugly waving goodbye, Yu is absolutely convinced he has just solved his freeloader problem for good. But it is all a setup. The system is programmed for petty revenge, so she is not actually going anywhere. Our boy just laughs it up, telling his skeleton she will be back soon enough, totally confident in his traps. Suddenly, Yu is shocked, realizing this is way too easy for her as she casually strolls through with a drink. His skeleton crew is in full-blown panic, screaming about how she just casually cleared the whole thing. Miria just looks back, confused, explaining that she could see all the trap locations perfectly. A skeleton chilling in a pot philosophizes on how weird humans are for enjoying such basic traps. Yu turns to Lionel for confirmation, but his bony friend just looks completely done with this entire situation. Our boy then clarifies exactly what it means to be able to see where all the traps are placed. Miria just casually explains it is the flow of magic, no big deal or anything. This ability basically lets her see the dungeon's entire magical nervous system, making traps useless. Yu's brain just blue screens, he has absolutely no clue what she is even talking about. Miria just stares him down, flat out asking if he is an idiot. The disrespect is absolutely incredible, and Yu has to take a deep breath, reminding himself he is the mature adult here. Sure you are, buddy. Yu grabs her face, demanding she explain this magic-seeing ability in excruciating detail. She breaks it down for him with a little diagram, asking why a trap would even hit someone midair. With maximum smugness, Yu explains he just extended the trap's activation range into the sky, but Miria just roasts him for building traps without understanding the basic principles behind them. She points out the activation field itself emits a magical presence, a total dead giveaway. And if you can see that, you do not need to memorize anything, you can just waltz right through. Yu starts sweating, assuming this has to be some kind of special demon-exclusive power. This revelation sends him into a panic, screaming that he needs to redesign all his traps immediately. Meanwhile, back outside, one of Ars's companions runs up yelling that something terrible has happened. Ars is just standing over the punks he flattened, saying it was no big deal and he was not even serious. But his friend clarifies that is not the problem. The asterisk real emergency is something else entirely. A totally confused Ars just asks what on earth he is talking about now. This guy points dramatically, announcing that a brand new dungeon just opened up out of nowhere. And sure enough, there is a new entrance tucked away in an alley between a restaurant and a store. They notice the whole area has suddenly expanded, leaving his companion completely baffled. Even Ars is staring in disbelief, wondering how this space just appeared. His friend adds that the whole thing happened without a single sound, which is just plain creepy. Suddenly, Ars's attention is drawn to something just off to the side. He spots the sign for the original beginner's first dungeon still hanging there, but right beside it is a brand new sign for the beginner's second dungeon. Ars is already getting a headache, muttering about how this dungeon always manages to exceed his expectations. He quickly composes himself though, standing tall and ready for whatever this new development is. A crowd has already gathered around the new entrance, with someone trying to push through to get to him. Word spreads like wildfire, and suddenly everyone's shouting that the famous adventurer Ars has arrived. This whole crowd is buzzing, wondering if he is actually here to challenge the brand new dungeon. That is when a tough-looking, high-level adventurer named Bogart approaches, asking if Ars is interested too. Ars immediately asks if Bogart ever cleared the first asterisk beginner dungeon, which seems to catch the big guy off guard. He then realizes he has never actually heard any rumors about a high ranker like him clearing it. Meanwhile, some other adventurers are celebrating in the background, glad they kept their own clears a secret. Turns out Ars has been so focused on his own grind he has only just hit level 2 himself. Bogart just brushes it off, wanting to know what Ars thinks of this new second course. This sign explains the new rules. 2 beginner courses are open, with an advanced one coming soon. It also includes a very comforting disclaimer that there is no danger to your life, which is not suspicious at all. Bogart notes the rules are not identical to the first dungeon, finding the 5-person party limit curious. Ars wonders if parties will all spawn in the same location, but admits he has no idea. With a confident grin, Bogart holds up a coin, declaring there is one very simple way to find out. This straightforward, no-nonsense approach seems to completely dazzle our boy Ars. He just smiles back, agreeing to the plan without a single hesitation. They seal the deal with a fist bump, Bogart totally hyped for a rare team-up between top-tier adventurers. This crowd is already gossiping, betting they will clear it instantly and wondering what the reward will be. Bogart is totally amused by how fired up Ars is, who is just smiling with quiet confidence. They step up to the entrance, a simple brick wall with a slot for the entry fee. With no hesitation, Bogart slides his coin into the machine, paying his way in. Our boy Ars gives the signal, telling Bogart it is time to head inside. And Bogart is absolutely roaring with excitement, ready for whatever's next. Ars follows suit, dropping his own coin in to complete the party entry. He is already thinking this second dungeon name is a joke, expecting another round of nonsense. But then he remembers the first dungeon was already packed with things that should not be possible. So he steels himself, ready to face whatever this new course throws at them. In a flash of light, he finds himself teleported into a dark, empty space. Bogart lands right beside him, completely disoriented and asking what this place even is. Ars confirms they were teleported to the same location, answering one of their earlier questions. This first thing they notice is the absolute unnerving silence of the room. Judging by the airflow alone, Ars can tell they are in a massive open area. Suddenly, a system message pops up, announcing the start of the dungeon and offering an exit if they step out of the light. It then repeats that oh-so-comforting disclaimer that there is no risk to their lives. This rules clarify that any failure, monster attacks, traps, falling, results in immediate ejection, which has Ars asking about monsters. Both of them immediately agree this is nothing like a normal dungeon's rule set. Then comes the kicker. For teams, one person's failure means the asterisk entire party gets ejected. This system explains they can only walk on glowing paths but can fly freely, and Bogart seems intrigued by the attack however you want part. Bogart is loving this, grinning that the attack however you want rule is perfect for him. Then the system lays out the reward for this whole thing, a single gold coin. Ars immediately dismisses it, thinking one coin is a pathetic prize not even worth the effort. But just as he is about to write it off, the system adds a very important however. It then explains that if no one clears the dungeon, the prize money rolls over to the next day. Both of them are completely baffled, demanding to know what that even means. This system clarifies, 10 days, 10 gold, 100 days, 100 gold, it is a jackpot dungeon. This revelation absolutely shatters their expectations, the potential prize is staggering. For now though, the system confirms the current reward is just that one lonely gold coin. They just stand there in stunned silence, processing this absolutely wild new mechanic. Ars immediately starts scheming, figuring the smartest move is to wait 10 days and cash in big. Bogart just scoffs at the idea, saying there is no way that would ever work, and Ars has to agree adventurers are way too greedy to ever cooperate for a bigger payout. Bogart figures a daily gold coin is still a sweet deal, but suspects the difficulty will spike after the first clear. Agreeing with the logic, Ars decides they should just test the waters now. Bogart is feeling pretty confident, thinking a 5-person team should make this an easy win, but Ars is still hung up on that joint responsibility rule, sensing it is a major catch. Stepping forward with resolve, he simply says it is time to get going. This second he leaves the spotlight, glowing pathways ignite over a massive, dark chasm. Both of them just stare out, realizing the sheer scale of this new challenge is immense. Bogart stands with his arms crossed, already looking bored with this whole dark void situation. Looking out over the glowing paths, he comments on just how ridiculously massive this place is. Ars agrees, estimating the chasm is easily over a kilometer wide, no big deal. His attention then snaps to the side as he calmly announces they have got enemies approaching. Our boy seems more intrigued than worried, which is always a fantastic sign, and their first opponents are a bunch of adorable little rock potato golems. A quick explanation confirms these are not living things, just monsters animated by pure magic. One of them even points to a path on the right as if offering a friendly suggestion, totally not a trap. Bogart's ready to just smash everything in sight, and Ars agrees that is probably the best plan. But just as they are about to move, Ars's eye catches a very strange detail. While Bogart charges in like a freight train, Ars spots something on the golem's hand. A closer look reveals some kind of symbol etched right into its rocky palm. He realizes with a shock that it is a character for teleport, a one-touch ejection button. Ars screams a warning at Bogart to not let it touch him or they are both getting kicked out. This big guy looks completely blindsided as the golem's hand closes in for the tag. Gritting his teeth, Bogart desperately tries to twist his body out of the way. Even the golem seems surprised by his speed, a true testament to his high-ranker reflexes. He dodges just in time, bringing his axe around in a powerful counterswing. With a massive roar, Bogart puts all his strength into cleaving the monster's arm clean off. This axe connects with a satisfying crunch, shattering the golem's limb into 1,000 pieces. This golem Bogart hit completely shatters into dust from the impact. With a grunt, he lands, clearly satisfied with his one-shot takedown. Even Ars seems a little impressed by the sheer power on display. Bogart grumbles about how much of a pain that golem was, despite, obliterating it. Ars just chides him for being so reckless just because it was a mere golem. This path ahead is way too narrow to risk getting tagged by their instant eject hands, so our boy decides it is time for a different approach, conjuring a magic circle. A blast of magic shoots from his hand, heading right for the cluster of rock potatoes, but it just punches a tiny smoking hole right through one of them, not much else. Ars confirms his theory, deciding magic is definitely the safest way to handle these things. Bogart just looks over, waiting for the new game plan. This new plan is simple. Bogart lures them in and Ars will pick them off with magic one by one. With a grin, Bogart immediately starts taunting the rock monsters, drawing their aggro. He easily sidesteps their clumsy swings, playing the perfect bait. Instead of smashing it, he just bats one away with the flat of his axe, sending the little guy flying right into Ars's line of fire. Ars is already waiting, unleashing another precise magical shot. His spell connects perfectly with the airborne golem, a direct hit. This impact sends the monster tumbling right off the glowing path and into the abyss. Bogart yells out in triumph, confirming one monster is officially down for the count. Ars is totally on board with this plan, ready to keep the momentum going, so Bogart immediately puts it into action, batting another golem into the air. And Ars is already waiting, magic circles spinning up for the perfect shot. His spell lances out, piercing the flying rock potato with pinpoint accuracy, sending another one tumbling helplessly off the glowing path into the void below. Bogart glances back, clearly impressed with how well their little system is working, but then a golem gets way too close to Ars, who knows he is in the splash zone now. He realizes his sword is basically useless against these things, not designed for smashing rock. So he leaps back, trying to create some distance from the lumbering monster, just as Bogart swoops in, intercepting the golem with his massive axe. Ars lands safely out of harm's way, watching his partner handle the heavy lifting. This golem takes a swing, but Bogart is more than ready for it. Ars just smirks, thinking that at the end of the day, they are still just monsters, and Bogart proves his point by absolutely obliterating the golem with one clean swing. Bogart then shouts out to Ars, who is standing alone on a narrow ledge, giving him a thumbs up and saying he made for some pretty good bait, a high compliment really. Back together, Bogart admits he knew Ars was timing his shots perfectly. With a confident smile, Ars says it is time to move on, completely missing the little shadow thing behind him. Even one of the rock potatoes seems to notice something weird is going on. And our boy finally turns around, completely blindsided by whatever just snuck up on him. That little shadow is another golem, and it is making a beeline straight for Ars. It lunges forward, its teleport hand reaching out for the one-touch party wipe. Ars barely has time to yell wait before the golem's palm makes contact, and with a cute little asterisk poof asterisk, the game is officially over for our heroes. Suddenly, he is back at a desk in a bright room, looking completely bewildered. Meanwhile, two other adventurers watching a monitor confirm Ars and Bogart failed, not that they expected much. Back in his chair, the kid wonders why a high ranker like Bogart would even team up with him. He figures Bogart's intuition told him their opposite personalities would make a good team, then calls for his boss. His boss turns out to be a skeleton, who casually asks if the dungeon's reward is really that great. Our boy just turns to him, asking what he means and calling him Lionel, so the skeleton has a name. A new girl, Myra, points out that the jackpot system only works if people actually pay to play each day. But Ars is not worried, saying the first dungeon is making enough money to cover the costs for now. Lionel the skeleton chimes in that the longer it goes uncleared, the more their profits will actually grow. This system is designed to make adventurers drool over a massive jackpot, like 100 gold coins. Looking at the numbers, Ars notes that a 1 coin a day profit does not even cover their expenses. This real plan is to let the prize money build up, practice, and then clear it himself. For this whole scheme to work, the most crucial part is adjusting the difficulty perfectly. Because in these games, if the prize gets too big, some top-tier player just swoops in and ruins the fun for everyone. This goal is making it look winnable for others, while secretly ensuring only he can actually beat it. Lionel explains the whole system is based on a lottery, then asks what a lottery is. Ars tries to explain the economics of a lottery, but Lionel the skeleton is already bored out of his skull. This whole plan hinges on tuning the golem's strength just right, tough enough for others but beatable for him. Lionel compliments Ars on his bottomless magic, then immediately clarifies that it does in fact have a bottom. It is revealed Ars created those rock potato golems himself with a new spell he unlocked. He can even make more skeletons like Lionel, though it is way too expensive to build a whole army yet. So for now, the plan is to watch adventurers tackle the dungeon and wait for his own power to grow. Ars gets down to business, asking Lionel about the exact magic cost for maintaining those golems. And Lionel is absolutely loving that his boss is getting a reputation as some kind of legendary mage, because even top military mages can only summon one of these things while Ars is mass-producing them. Plus, Lionel reveals Ars has founded his own little squad, the White Bone Knights. One of the skeleton minions even pops up just to declare how awesome their team name is. Myra is totally on board, screaming that the name is, in fact, extremely cool. Ars, however, is completely unimpressed, thinking Myra is pretty simple-minded for getting so hyped. He just brushes the whole thing off with a classic whatever, clearly not sharing their excitement. With that settled, it is time to move on to the next stage of the plan, preparing the third dungeon. Ars tells Lionel they need to do that thing tonight to get ready, leaving Myra completely in the dark. Naturally, Myra immediately starts pestering them, demanding to know what that thing is. Ars just shuts her down, saying kids do not need to know, which obviously sets Myra off. He then adds that adults do not get loud just because they are hungry, which is just next-level trolling. And that is the last straw. Myra just starts wailing on him as he begs her to stop. Ars hits the deck, yelling that Myra's punches are way too dangerous and she needs to stop. She just sighs, wondering why he is getting so worked up over a little tap from a girl like her. Our boy starts sweating, realizing her power could make him spill all his past life secrets to the skeletons, so he just bolts, yelling at Myra not to run away while he is the one booking it out of there. Myra shouts after him, totally annoyed that he is ditching after she'd already planned her room's layout. His mind spirals as he runs, picturing himself just falling into an endless void of paranoia. Walking through some mental landscape, Ars decides he absolutely cannot let his memories leak out. He starts thinking about how insanely useful her ability would be for interrogating spies and criminals, though, after a long, dramatic pause. Ars just shrugs it off with a classic whatever, deciding to table the issue for now. Back in his training cave, he concludes he does not need her power and should just focus on his daily grind. He gets pumped, admitting he actually loves his daily sparring sessions with Lionel and the crew, and that daily grind turns out to be road maintenance of all things. Meanwhile, in a fancy mansion, some rich guy is absolutely screaming about someone's incompetence. This lord is furious that his people still have not managed to find some demon girl. He even hurls a fork at one of his knights to really drive the point home, a true leader. This night, Captain Brandes can only kneel and apologize for the complete failure. A flashback shows a captured bandit complaining about being ambushed by regular soldiers during an escort mission. Apparently, they not only attacked the escort but also got themselves captured in the process. But the real target, Myra, is still missing, and we see her being dragged away by those same thugs. This lord is still screaming his head off, refusing to believe his target could just vanish. Captain Brandes can only apologize, trying to explain the situation to his very stable boss. With a frustrated groan, the lord clutches his head, clearly annoyed by all this incompetence, so he orders Brandes to just find whatever dungeon she is in and get it done already. Brandes has to report the bad news: there are 0 sightings of the demon girl anywhere. This lord starts spitballing theories, hoping she just got eaten by wild dogs in the forest. He reasons that anyone fleeing into the woods would normally hide in a dungeon, but she is nowhere. Brandes is then dismissed, looking like he is just trying to escape before another fork comes flying. Outside, his smug-looking vice-captain asks if he managed to survive the meeting. Then he holds up a bloody cloth from Brandes' head, sarcastically asking if this counts as surviving. Brandes just buries his face in his hands, lamenting how that pig is in charge of them. His vice-captain just grins, cheerfully telling him not to call the nobility pigs while Brandes is not even listening. Walking away, the vice-captain reveals that basically everyone hates the lord and is just waiting to overthrow him. This guy even points out the lord has no real duties, but Brandes is just too stressed to care. Brandes realizes this loudmouth might be his future son-in-law, and while he is not wrong, they are still just hired soldiers. This scene shifts to a walled city called Ryun Fort, seen from a nearby hill. Its high walls are meant to keep any and all enemies from getting inside. This city is the central hub of the territory, a bustling town called Ryun Fort. We are introduced to a new guy, Lucas, who is apparently from this very town, and it turns out this is the exact same city where Ars has set up his little dungeon scamming operation. This vice-captain explains their boss is just another one of those nobles with a whole portfolio of mansions. Walking away, he questions why the lord is so obsessed with a demon girl, calling his reasoning total BS. Turns out the piggy lord paid a fortune to another noble just to buy Myra as a slave. And those soldiers who got ambushed were the lord's own private troops, not some random guards. His vice-captain wishes a bandit had survived to give them a lead, but Brandes shuts that down fast. Since she was not on any main roads, their only guess is she is hiding in the forest or a dungeon. This vice-captain points out Brandes searched in the opposite direction of Ryun Fort, assuming she'd flee the city. After all that searching, they came up completely empty-handed, much to the vice-captain's amusement. Brandes considers the worst-case scenario, that she just got eaten by monsters in the woods. Just then, a scout runs up with news, interrupting the vice-captain's "what if she is dead" speech. This scout breathlessly reports that his team actually found something, shocking Brandes completely. He tells them they have located a bandit hideout tucked away on the side of a mountain. Brandes clenches his fist, finally getting a solid lead on the bandits. He'd already considered a bandit hideout as one of the possibilities for where she could be. This official story is that skeletons wiped out the bandits, which is a complete and total lie. In reality, the bandits just kidnapped Myra and took her straight back to their base. Brandes is confused since the local dungeon is just an attraction and there were no skeletons anywhere. They have already questioned adventurers who went through the dungeon and nobody saw a thing. So he concludes it is almost certain Myra was dragged off to that bandit hideout. This only thing that does not add up is why the bandits were left tied up by the road. Brandes' men are all geared up, reporting the squad is ready to move out immediately. His smug vice-captain asks for the order while Brandes quietly considers their next move. This decision is made to go crush the bandits, a much better alternative to dealing with their boss. Meanwhile, back in Ars's dungeon, another challenger bites the dust, face-planting hard. A new adventurer is totally stunned by the potato golem, wondering what kind of bizarre trap this is. His partner, a big burly dude, just roars with laughter at the kid's priceless expression. This kid is absolutely mortified, embarrassed that his teammates saw him looking so pathetic. They realize 4 golems spawned at once, concluding the dungeon master must be insanely powerful. That one-touch teleport ability is basically a top-tier skill, making this a seriously tricky dungeon. Sitting in the lobby, they admit this was just the intro. The real dungeon is still a mystery. At that moment, a door to the room slowly creaks open, revealing a new arrival, and it is Bogart, the high ranker from before, looking determined to try again. This younger adventurer is shocked, realizing the famous Bogart has returned for another go. From the control room, Ars wonders if he is back for revenge, but Lionel predicts the same outcome. Bogart, however, just scratches his head, looking surprisingly sheepish about the whole thing. He then turns to Ars and offers a deep, completely unexpected apology for his attitude. Our boy just stands there silently, not exactly impressed by this sudden display of humility. Bogart admits he was a total jerk, getting cocky after clearing other dungeons so quickly. Ars just hits him with a deadpan and so, which is just a legendary power move. This high ranker swallows his pride, asking Ars to please cooperate with him one more time. Ars just gives a noncommittal "I know," completely unmoved by the big guy's groveling. He points out that teaming up with him offers absolutely zero benefits to a high ranker like Bogart. So with that in mind, he is basically asking what the point of all this is. But Bogart insists, saying he wants to cooperate, finally getting Ars to acknowledge him. Our boy just stares back, still processing the sudden change of heart from the cocky adventurer. This veteran admits Ars is the type to handle everything solo, a lone wolf through and through. In fact, he has heard that almost all of Ars's major achievements were done without a party. Bogart then leans in, saying a smart kid like Ars must already realize the truth about this dungeon, that none of his previous experience or tactics are going to work in here. And that is exactly why, he argues, Ars needs someone with a different perspective to succeed. Just as he makes his point, another voice pipes up from the side. Hey, it is the other adventurers who got wrecked earlier and they overheard the whole conversation. They jump at the chance, asking if they can join the party too, admitting they have always wanted to team up with Ars. One even points out that since this dungeon is a great equalizer, they might actually be useful for once. Everyone's surprised, Ars just smiles, agreeing to the idea while Bogart laughs in the background. So he officially declares it, they are all going to work together to figure out a strategy. Of course, in his head, he is already planning to be the second one to clear it, gotta maintain that low profile. Suddenly, some random new guy gets in his face, demanding to know his name. What a charmer. This scene cuts to a tavern where two other adventurers are having a drink and arguing. One of them, who is blindfolded, is blaming his partner, saying he would have gotten further if he was not being held back. This blindfolded guy is still yelling at his partner, but Lionel pops out to tell them to stop fighting. Ars just deadpans that the adventurers have actually started holding strategy meetings, a shocking turn of events. Apparently Ars shared some intel, but even with his help, nobody's managed to clear the second floor yet. And then this absolute weirdo with glasses comes prancing in, screaming about his master's new dungeon. He immediately gets one-shotted by a potato golem, a truly majestic entrance. Ars notes that Lucas, the new guy, made it the farthest before chickening out, so Lionel suggests it is time for them to make their move, and Ars calmly agrees. With that, the scene cuts to a quiet forest as night begins to fall. Our boy is confident they can reach the first town before the day is out. But Lionel reminds him that no carriages are coming by this late, so they are on foot. He also mentions that thanks to the soldiers' investigation, bandits will not be a problem either, just giving a casual yep as they continue on their way. Ars seems to be calculating something, quietly noting the time of day. Then he lets out a massive yawn, casually telling his boss to take a right. A moment later, he is complaining that his boss is getting way too far ahead of him. Planting his foot, he gives another precise direction to curve right from there. His skeleton companion asks if the ground is going to collapse, but Ars says no, he is using ground leveling. This kid explains it is the skill that makes the ground incredibly hard, asking if it is on the ceiling too. Our boy confirms it, explaining that is why the ground looks so solid from the surface. This all connects as we see him riding a cart, realizing that on a highway the ground gets worn down by constant traffic. He explains that by using ground leveling, a perfectly smooth surface appears. His grand scheme is to basically pave the entire highway, making it smooth as asphalt. And this is all part of a bigger plan that already includes opening a third dungeon. Because attracting regular folks, not just adventurers, is the key to long-term profit. Which is exactly why maintaining the roads is an absolute must for his business empire. Better roads mean more traffic, and more traffic means more challengers for his dungeon. Then once the area is known for being safe, he will drop his third dungeon on them, a masterclass in market timing. Lionel points out they are only a kilometer from town, having made good time. Peeking out of a hole in the ground, Ars casually tells his skeleton buddy he can head back now. Which triggers a full-on horror movie jump scare from Lionel, who is apparently not a fan of the dark. Yeah, a kid and a skeleton popping out of a hole at night is a pretty terrifying sight. Ars is just glad nobody saw them, since a random person would probably have a heart attack. But Lionel strikes a pose, reminding Ars he should be grateful for the personal GPS service. Ars then tells him not to even think about putting a foot near the entrance they just used. With the path confirmed to be a straight shot from here, they are ready to finish the job. So our boy gets this ridiculously smug look on his face, ready to unleash his next big move. He throws his hands out, preparing to cast his signature road paving magic, and with a dramatic flourish, he yells out ground leveling, like he is a construction-themed superhero. He knows he cannot do it all at once, so he will just chip away at it piece by piece. And with that, the two of them walk off into the night on their freshly flattened path. Lionel's still trying to process the magic, calling his boss's 1 km road paving spell just insane. But Ars just deadpans that his magic is nothing special compared to what actual adventurers can do. He's talking about flashy spells like Giant's Iron Hammer, which are apparently a big deal. This skeleton points out that summoning him costs about the same as those flashy spells, around 1000 MP. Of course, the whole 1000 MP concept is flying right over Lionel's empty skull. Summoning monsters is a huge mana drain, a fact illustrated by Lionel and a potato golem striking a pose. Our boy just calls that kind of magic a total waste, since it'd just blow a skeleton away instantly. Meanwhile, Lionel's flexing, arguing he is a better investment since he works forever after just one summon. This immediately spirals into a full-blown panic. He is terrified his boss will fire him for being a bad investment. Ars just cracks a tiny, amused smile at his skeleton's full-blown existential crisis. He reassures him not to worry, he will keep using him until his bones literally grind into dust, which is not comforting at all. At that moment, Lionel announces they have arrived, popping up behind a weirdly flustered Ars. And they are standing right in front of a building in what looks like a proper fantasy town. It is finally sinking in for Ars, he is really in a town in another world. From the darkness of their tunnel, Ars turns to his skeletal companion with a new plan. With a grand flourish, he announces that this is, in fact, the town, and Lionel just agrees. Our boy is throwing his hands up like he just won the lottery, screaming that he has finally made it. After that brief moment of pure joy, his expression sobers as he turns back to Lionel. They are peeking out into a pitch-black alleyway because of course they are still underground. And as we get a view of the city streets, someone is absolutely fuming, but who? With the roadwork done, Lionel asks if Ars has some business to take care of in town. Ars just gives him this incredibly tired look, not at all thrilled by the question. He then explodes, ranting that he wants to buy food, get new clothes, and maybe even fall in love, normal life stuff. Lionel just tries to calm him down, realizing his boss is having a full-blown teenage crisis. After a moment, Ars concedes that staying indoors is fine, but he is clearly not happy about it. That is when Lionel gets a galaxy brain idea. What if they just tunnel directly into a house? Our boy is just a tiny shadow, completely stunned by this absolutely unhinged suggestion. This thought had literally never crossed his mind, and he is just floored by the sheer audacity. He realizes there are in fact roofs underground, they are just attached to houses he does not own. This brings up a fascinating legal loophole. Is it still breaking and entering if you do it from below? Deciding to test this theory out, Ars sends Lionel to go scout for a suitable target. And with a cheerful "let us go," the skeleton happily scampers off to commit some light trespassing. Ars waits at the bottom of the stairs, looking like an anxious kid on his first ever heist. A moment later, Lionel's skull pops up right next to a sleeping drunk, giving the poor guy the scare of his life. Back underground, Ars is losing his mind, scolding Lionel for being such a bonehead. Lionel sheepishly reports back that he could not actually confirm if there was a house nearby. So Ars just kicks him, telling him to get back up there and do his job properly this time. We then see Lionel's skull sticking out of the ground, a sight Ars admits is pretty damn surreal. Popping his head out of the hole, Lionel spots something interesting just off-panel. He reports back that there is a troublesome person just 10 meters away from their position. With the target nearby, Ars leads Lionel through their tunnel, ready to test his brilliant B&E theory. He stops, deciding this is the perfect spot to begin their totally legal home invasion. With a manic grin, he announces it is time to start the experiment, punching a hole in the ceiling. But something immediately blasts him backward, sending him flying. So much for that plan. Totally stunned, he is trying to figure out what the hell just repelled him so hard. He sits there, grumbling that it felt like a powerful rejection, something he has never encountered before. Lionel just asks why he is throwing a tantrum, telling him to stop taking it out on him. Classic employee feedback. Ars realizes there must be some kind of anti-magic field or barrier protecting the area. He then has Lionel try to just stab a hole through, but the sword just bounces right off. After some effort, Lionel actually manages to poke a tiny hole through, much to Ars's surprise. Ars wonders if there is some kind of defense magic, asking if this still counts as trespassing. Lionel starts whining about being an accomplice to a crime, so Ars just tells him to shut up and go. Popping out of the ground like a bony gopher, Lionel confirms he can indeed exit the tunnel, so Ars immediately asks for a satrep. What is the situation on the surface? Lionel reports back that it is just the space under a normal floor about 70 cm high, and oh hey, a mouse. Ars just gives a deadpan "I see," completely unfazed by this groundbreaking intel. He raises his hand, a new thought clicking into place about how this barrier works. It hits him, the reason he was repelled is because a roof is still a roof, even from underneath. With that figured out, he decides it is time for him to take a look himself. But the second his head pops out of the floorboards, he is greeted by a very unpleasant surprise. Ars is on the floor, yelling at Lionel to shut up, but his skeleton just tells him he is the loud one. Then Lionel proudly presents his new friend, a literal mouse he found under the floorboards. Our boy immediately loses it, screaming that it is not cute and demanding he get rid of the vermin. But Lionel, ever the optimist, suggests they should just keep it as a pet, a truly terrible idea. He insists the filthy, germ-ridden rodent is overflowing with charm, a point Ars vehemently disagrees with. This mouse even strikes a cutesy pose, which only makes Lionel more convinced it is trying to win Ars over. This whole argument gets so loud that Ars gets yeeted out of the hole, with Lionel calmly pointing out his boss's volume issues. Suddenly, a voice from above yells for them to come out and Ars panics, thinking they have been caught by the homeowner. Except it is not a homeowner, it is two very angry-looking dudes accusing them of sneaking into the Adventurers Guild. Ars is just completely baffled by this turn of events. This word's Adventurers Guild finally sink in and the cold sweat starts to pour. Meanwhile, Lionel gives a smug little wink and a thumbs up, because of course he planned this. This guys upstairs start screaming to stab the intruders underground, sending Ars into a full-blown run-for-your-life meltdown. We get a wide shot of the town, completely oblivious to the drama unfolding in the guild. Then the scene cuts to a bright, daytime sky, signaling a major shift in time or place. We are suddenly inside some kind of empty lecture hall, a completely different setting. A new, simpler-looking skeleton is talking to a guy who looks suspiciously like Ars, but with different clothes. Nearby, a girl with white hair and horns is pouting, complaining that she is being bullied and hates the room. This Ars lookalike just checks his watch, coolly stating the room is at a perfect 22 degrees and 75% humidity. She snaps back that it is not bullying, it is something else, but he just listens on, completely unfazed. This horned girl Millia complains that her room is way too dark, but the Ars lookalike just asks if it is bright enough. He points out her room is the only one with the entire ceiling lit up, basically calling her a diva. This guy explains his skeletons just stand around since they do not need furniture or sleep, a truly minimalist lifestyle. One of the skeletons suggests that maybe Millia just wants a window for her room, a revolutionary concept around here. She immediately agrees, saying she wants to know the time of day and feel the wind on her face. Her point actually seems to land, with both the skeleton and the Ars lookalike looking thoughtful for a second. Millia then complains she has not been outside once since arriving, which is a pretty big red flag. But the guy, whose name we learn is Itsuwa, shuts her down hard. A window is absolutely out of the question. She is completely floored by the rejection, asking why a simple window is such a big deal. After a moment of protest, she just caves with a blush, saying she understands. But she has one condition: if she cannot have a window, she wants to move to a room far, far away from him. Her face is a mess of confusion and frustration as she asks why he is being so difficult. Itsuwa explains that a window is just another entry point for invaders and risk management is key. This sets her off and she yells, asking if she is not even considered family to him. He just coldly replies that she is not, and besides, he can just use teleportation traps to get around. Itsuwa continues his lecture on dungeon security, explaining how teleportation can be controlled with relays. Millia snaps back that distance asterisk does matter, screaming about the emotional distance between them. He just shrugs it off, saying the distance between their hearts has not exactly been shrinking anyway. Ouch. Her face just crumples in pure unadulterated frustration at his emotional density. Finally, she just grits her teeth and mutters his name. Itsuwa, completely defeated. Itsuwa just screams idiot at Millia while a nearby skeleton calmly observes that the boss is officially angry. He then launches into a rant about how he pays for all her clothes, food, and furniture, asking if she has any consideration. But a skeleton pipes up, asking if maybe it is the other way around. A tiny Itsuwa in the background looks completely lost. This skeleton elaborates that Itsuwa just does not understand human-like things, basically calling him an emotionally stunted robot. Suddenly, Itsuwa gets blasted with a system notification, unlocking a whole suite of new labyrinth magic abilities. He is totally flustered, telling his skeletons he just heard a voice and they are just staring at him like he has finally lost it. Then a cool-looking girl with sunglasses pops into his head, his imaginary Keo-chan, who is apparently a regular hallucination. One of his skeletons gets right in his face, pointing out how messed up it is to be hallucinating and hiring imaginary friends. We get a quick tutorial. The dungeon's max MP grows by absorbing things like trash from hotels, eco-friendly world domination. His imaginary friend Keo-chan asks him to list off the new labyrinth magic spells he just learned. Itsuwa mutters to himself that this new magic feels fundamentally different from anything he has ever used before. A system menu pops up, revealing options like Labyrinth Occupation and Labyrinth Alliance, looking suspiciously like a game interface. Keo-chan asks what Labyrinth Occupation does, and the system explains it lets him take over adjacent dungeons. He immediately asks for clarification. Does this mean he can just steal other dungeon masters' property? This system clarifies it is not just dungeons, but any building owned by someone else is fair game for a hostile takeover. And it all clicks. He flashes back to being blasted away from the Adventurers Guild ceiling, finally understanding why. This reason he was repelled is because that building was considered property owned by another entity. A helpful diagram shows that as Dungeon Master, he can only move in his *own dungeon, but Lionel can go anywhere. Another diagram explains he could not enter the guild because it is another's dungeon, but his tunnel underneath is his own territory. Itsuwa clutches his cloak, a bead of sweat on his face as he realizes the insane potential of Labyrinth Occupation. Itsuwa realizes he can connect buildings underground, creating a city-wide subway system of petty crime. His mind immediately jumps to the possibilities: free food, free clothes, all the perks of owning an entire town. He excitedly asks Keo-chan if this means he can just take over any dungeon he connects to. With a completely deadpan expression, she confirms his hostile takeover dreams are indeed possible. This system does clarify, however, that the mana cost changes per target, so no free lunch. Itsuwa figures he will just have to test it out to see how it works, a classic poke it with a stick strategy. Then he asks about the Labyrinth Alliance option, which sounds suspiciously like diplomacy. This feature allows dungeon masters to visit each other and share functions, assuming they can agree on terms. Our boy is less than thrilled by the idea of cooperating with anyone ever. A cute little diagram explains it is like letting a neighbor into your house, which he is clearly against. He grits his teeth, realizing that what he can use depends entirely on negotiation, his least favorite activity. Suddenly, we cut to a cloaked Itsuwa facing a demon who mentions another dungeon master is nearby. Turning to his ever-liable skeleton, Itsuwa looks for some intel. He asks Lionel if he has ever actually met another dungeon master out in the wild. But Lionel just shrugs, saying Itsuwa is the first boss he has ever been summoned by, not exactly helpful. Another skeleton explains that masters can be anything from black mist to living creatures, which is super vague. Itsuwa resigns himself to the fact that he will eventually have to talk to one of these rivals. With a sigh, he decides to get all the info he can before that happens. He then asks Keo-chan to explain the labyrinth surrender option, just in case. She explains it as a way to formally give up your dungeon to an adjacent master, the ultimate white flag. Itsuwa learns that surrendering means you just completely abandon your entire dungeon, a total rage quit. She clarifies that you lose all your labyrinth magic and are officially fired as a dungeon master. Best of all, you do not even need the other guy's permission. It is a unilateral "I am out." But our boy somehow gets this twisted, wondering if he has to negotiate to use this feature. A completely different thought suddenly hits him, and he is just like, wait a minute. This system's words echo in his mind. You are no longer a dungeon master, and it all clicks. If he is not the master, does that mean he can finally *leave the dungeon?